Okay, folks, if we can, I'm getting the thumbs up from Adam. We're ready to start this morning. We start off with committee meetings, and I'm looking where Director Roberts disappeared to. Just grabbing his coffee. There he is. We'll start with the Protective Services Committee, and Director Roberts is chairing this one. So over to you.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. Let's have the start of the Protective Services at 9 a.m. Could I have a motion to accept the agenda? And second, all in favor? Perfect. All right, well, thank you. I'll just pass it over to the CAO in regards to our presentation.
Thank you. This is the quarterly update from the Protective Services RCMP, and I have nothing further to say, but I'm sure that the superintendent here does. Go ahead.
Good morning. I don't see on the screen in front of me if the PowerPoint that was sent over, there it is. And I believe that all of you had an opportunity to receive the stats, and hopefully some of you were able to have those discussions with your area commanders and or representatives from the Penticton Rural. So for those of you that were at City Council meeting on Tuesday for the City of Penticton, I apologize, there will be some repeat material, but I know it was so riveting that you just can't wait to get it for a second time. So good afternoon or good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to brief you all on the current key performance indicators in relation to crime and policing in rural Penticton. This review is of data from Q3, so we're a little behind in July 1st to September 30th on crime statistics. I will provide a summary of some of the work from our quarter, some of our key accomplishments, challenges, and plans for the remainder of the year and into 2026. On to the second slide, please. Just a quick review in terms of the level of our calls for service. This does encompass the city as well as our rural area. Oh, sorry, I apologize. This does just actually encompass our rural areas. So we have seen a decline of 20% overall in our calls for service for criminal code and controlled substance acts files. This was attributed also, or we saw the same sort of trend within the municipality as well. And there's nothing specific that we can attribute to this. Maybe inflation, a lack of traveling in the province, just to increase of costs of doing so. Of course, that's anecdotal. So, but it allowed us to catch up on some of our file work, I'm sure. On the third slide, I've just compared the types of calls for service from Q3 in 2024 to Q3 in 2025. Still noting that our traffic incidents still remain the #1 calls for service in the rural area. Overall, what we did see in the rural area, inclusive of Okanagan Falls, Caledon, and Naramata, if we could go to the next slide, was a significant increase in reports of fraud during Q3. Most of these incidents were online and or over the phone. What I am happy to report is that during November, outside now the start of Q4, the community policing team hosted a number of fraud awareness training programs and initiatives throughout the region. And we consistently see that those that are most impacted by this crime type are our seniors. And so I spoke with Joanne Rupenthal yesterday and just said, can we please continue to do this? This is one of those tricky types of offenses where it is very challenging for us as police to sink our teeth into in terms of gathering the required evidence to forward for a charge assessment. So prevention is the key strategy here as it relates to fraud, and we will continue to do that throughout the year. If you would like to reach out to our community policing team and make a special request, we do encourage you to do that, whether it's through your area commanders and or through the Penticton detachment, and we will connect you with Joanne and have that come out to your area. So I spoke last quarterly update in relation to intimate partner violence. We continue to monitor this trend. We've seen it slowly tick in the upward for the last 5 years. And as many of you know, this summer there was a lot of media around, provincially around intimate partner violence. There were a number of homicides in relation to this. Partnered with the City of Penticton, and in the new year we will be seeing a campaign around awareness, what resources are in our area for those who are witnessing victim or impacted by intimate partner violence. That will be with our community-based victim services at Sowens, our police-based victim services team, and Penticton Media. But the region will reap the benefits of that communication strategy. So more to follow, and just really something that we should all be keeping an eye on. I think it's a shared response on how do we support those who are impacted by intimate partner violence. Moving on to the next slide, just some updates in relation to to some of our key performance indicators. What will be new for the Penticton detachment in 2026 is a designated position within our Special Victims Unit assigned to oversee and monitor intimate partner violence investigations. This is in keeping with the standards at other larger municipal detachments in the province. And so we have now found ourselves in a position where we have a subject matter expert being transferred to the detachment. And we really believe that this is a strategy we should be implementing within the detachment. So they will be monitoring and providing that oversight that is required by provincial policing standards to ensure we're compliant and that we're doing those investigations to their fullest. And they will act as a liaison with Crown Counsel and really making sure that we connect those people with the supports required to either support them to get to the court process or making sure that we can connect them with services as it relates to housing and care for children. I know that there was a question that had come up with Staff Sergeant Badamanuk, so I'll just get ahead of it because we actually spoke of it this week. Victim services, police-based victim services remains a critical resource in the detachment. With over 406 active files and 151 referrals in Q3. The team handled over 700 emotional support calls and provided over 2,200 court updates, supported 22 families in sudden death cases, and responded to 3 crisis interventions. They've even launched an Instagram account for our PADS dog Benally to strengthen community engagement. We are very unique in our ability to access our PADS support dog. If required, we can deploy Benally throughout the region if there's some consultation with that. She's an amazing support and again, just a nice resource for us to have. So that is the services and those are the numbers reflective of the entire Penticton municipal and rural area. Other detachments within the region do have their own victim services, and so I won't be speaking specifically to our other regional detachment areas. Restorative justice continues to promote accountability and healing and completing 13 processes this quarter. Volunteers remain essential and have contributed to 30 patrol hours through programs like Crime Stoppers and Speedwatch, and dedicating 557 hours to restorative justice initiatives. And the Integrated Crisis Response Team, as we know, is a pairing of the RCMP officer with a psychiatric nurse, and they have responded to 722 mental health related calls so far this year, attending 617 directly and making 337 referrals. These referrals include connection to support within the community, whether it's to for addictions, whether it's to physicians in care, and just continues to be an outstanding success in our community. Moving to the next slide. The Penticton Crime Reduction Unit and partner agencies executed several high-impact enforcement actions targeting prolific and high-risk offenders. Key successes include the safe arrest of a known prolific offender linked to multiple stolen vehicle files and the recovery of an abandoned stolen vehicle that led to an arrest warrant and custody of a repeat offender. To combat rising auto theft, Penticton hosted its second consecutive impact deployment, which is the integrated auto theft team. It's a provincial unit from the Lower Mainland, but we were able to have them come to the region. And this resulted in recovery of a stolen vehicle and charges for possession of stolen property. And during Peach Fest, our combined forces unit conducted enhanced enforcement, which was a request again from the detachment for a presence in our community. They generated over 30 files action 25 arrests with seizures including 13 weapons, 1 firearm, and a significant quantity of illicit drugs, and a total cash seizure of $2,300. And looking to just discuss some of the activities we'll be doing in Q4 and some of our goals for 2026. We recently had a town hall for the city of Penticton. I am excited when I see people from the rural area come, and what was overwhelming feedback was just a sense of enhanced road safety. So with that, taking that feedback, we have made the purchase now of some new traffic enforcement equipment, updated. Today in the detachment, we started our new e-ticketing, which is a new electronic, and Brian can help me out with that because I'm not a traffic person, but allows us to do those tickets in the vehicle, like through a computer, and generate them more quickly. So that training is going on, seeing that we need to really enhance our road safety and engagement in that area. We are going to be doing some community consultations, so please expect some invitations just to revisit some of our key performance indicators, making sure that they include the needs of our regional district area, specifically Penticton Rural. And we will continue to work on our crime prevention initiatives, which include communication, our Project 529 enhanced patrols, and looking to host a regional bike course so that we can get our officers out in public spaces over the summer and get those electric bikes up and roaring in our communities. So that's all I have for Penticton Rural. Happy to answer any questions.
We have Director Bush.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You said there was over 700 calls for mental health, and I'm just wondering, is there any follow-up for these people? Do they go somewhere or can you, I don't know.
I'm happy to elaborate through the
Yeah.
chair, no problem. So we could just be responding to someone who is having a short-term mental health crisis and really just needs a connection. And that nurse and our officer could just give them the time that they needed, whether it's a place to stay, or we could connect them with a temporary winter shelter, or, you know, connect them with someone over at Compass Court, to the more complex issues. And so those would mean that we may have to apprehend that person and take them up to the hospital and get them connected with some psychiatric support, some addiction support. So it's a really broad scale. Sometimes our officers will attend and the ICRT team won't attend, which means the officer was able to deal with it by the first response. So we do try and connect those people. We do monitor how many calls for service. So if we see sort of repeat clients, we really start to dig in deep as what is impacting this person, that there's constantly that engagement with police. So we have really seen a reduction in recidivism, and those people that maybe would have called once basically every day for a month, we're able to connect them and dig in to find out what is the issue. So yes, we are connecting those people and really making sure that the police are not their first response.
Thank you. Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. Always great to connect and hear different, what's going on in the region. I guess that's an important part of the conversations that we have here at the table. My question goes back to your statement about during Peach Fest, and I guess I want clarity just in case the
For sure.
press is listening, that those incidents were not at Peach Festival, right? Correct?
Correct.
Because it felt like you were saying that those things happened at Peach Fest, so.
Through the chair, we know that our community has a huge influx of population because of Peach Fest. So we ask for enhanced patrols in our area. There's no link to the festivities. It's just that we know our community attracts all types of people during Peach Fest, and some of them enjoying the festivities and others looking at an opportunity to sell their illicit drugs or participate in criminal activities. Unfortunately, we don't always, we attract everybody. So no problem with the clarity.
Next is Director Fedrigo.
Thank you to the chair. how has the attendance for the fraud courses been? And are you hitting the demographic that you're wanting to attend? And then on that, is there a way that we can help spread that message either through our social media or something linked to us to help either increase attendance to courses or just any messaging that you've got out that we can spread to our residents?
Through the chair, I'll try and hit all of those questions. I cannot comment on the number of attendees, but typically what happens is we have a seniors care facility or a seniors group that reaches out to us. So I believe we're hitting the right demographic. And as a result of that request, they are in charge of sort of gathering the group of individuals coming together for that event. So my discussions with Joanne are pretty loose on that, basically, like, was it successful? Did you have lots of engagement? And she has always given me great feedback on, it seemed that everybody was really happy to have it. They've learned a lot to take away from it, and they're well attended. So I guess for me, it would be that these services are there, and that if you wanted to, on your social media platforms, say, please engage with community policing if you're interested in having a fraud presentation. And Joanne and her team will, which is her team of one right now, but we'll make those arrangements to come in. But we do obviously encourage the most attendance as we can, so that would be great.
The next question is from Director Barkwell.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I guess I don't want to miss a chance to give a shout out to Victim Services. From what I've seen, they're tremendous. But being more of a numbers guy, I've always, liked the idea of the ICRT from the first time we heard about it in Summerland. Could the argument be made so that we could get more ICRT type people, that it's actually saving the community money by, less work for the police or freeing up resources? And is that something that's possible?
Well, through the chair, love where you're going with that. So right now, these positions are funded through the city of Penticton, but I'm happy to work with the regional detachment areas, and we do want to expand the program, and we have started those conversations with our with the health authority, who has to work sort of 2 years in advance. There has been a bit of a freeze for 2026 on provincial positions, but I am in touch, and then we've already started to plan to expand the nursing program and get additional nurses. Ideally, we are collecting the data to show that there's a need, and being able to have a nurse and an officer working to follow each of our watches, and then also being able, like, we have sent the nurse out to Summerland with our officer just because they're so close and there is a definite need, and we try and assess it. And ultimately we want to support people in crisis. So you are exactly saying what I love to hear, and we are working on expanding it. We're only in year 2. So I would suggest that we will see expansion of the program in the next 3 years.
Follow up?
So from a budget point of view, you're looking at getting resources from Interior Health and not from the RCMP's allocation or
Through the chair,
Yeah.
if I may. Right now, the biggest challenge is going to be the health resource. So I would not ask for a resource until I knew that health could produce the required nurse position. It is, which nobody ever says ever. It's easier for the RCMP to get a position than it is for the health authority to get a position right now. In terms of, like, I would be able to get the resource more quickly than they.
So Penticton's larger, but our budget in Summerland is still millions of dollars.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we were to, allocate whatever, say $100,000 just for numbers for, the nurse position, instead of $100,000 for an additional officer in the community, which choice do you think you would recommend?
Well, I actually think through the chair that this is probably something we should come out and have a discussion about in terms, because there are some other things I will be discussing with each of the mayors and councils and CEOs about some proposed growth for the region. And I love the discussion that you started here about expanding that program, and really think that I could talk to you about it for an hour. So let's set something up in the new year, and I'm happy to go out with Duncan, Dan, and myself and sit down with council, and we can have those discussions for future planning, absolutely. And then really that piece would allow me to go back to the health authority and have those discussions with them.
Great. Well, it sounds like that's going to be a really good discussion, and we look forward to it. Director Taylor's next.
Director Barkwell, it's Christmas time. You might be asked to contribute both instead of just one. Just on staffing, in previous years, we've had staffing issues, I guess, keeping at appropriate numbers. And so I'm just wondering how you're doing on that, and if you could keep that as part of your regular briefing to us, whether that this is getting into the red zone or we're in the safe zone.
So through the chair, what I will say to you is this, is I'm happy to have resource discussions in a closed council meetings and provide you those updates. There is policy around discussions in relation to public and officer safety. And so I have no problems discussing where we are with our resources, where our vacancies, challenges are. What I can tell you is we have 3 cadets coming to the city who will obviously be policing our rural area, and 4 experienced police officers. I'm looking forward to potentially being able to staff our 1 vacant PDS position that has been vacant for some time. And poor Jay Goodfellow has been running around the entire region doing the best he can, and he's not getting any younger. So I know the impacts of working nights as a newly turned 50-year-old. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to fill that position. So we are continued to advocate for our teams across the region and for the municipality. And I'm excited with the new recruits, one starting next week, one started 2 weeks ago, and I know we have one starting just before Christmas. So we're doing quite well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Any more questions? Looking around the table, looking on the screen. I have a couple questions. One would be a follow-up to the conversation that Director Barkwell started there. In regards to stats with the mental health, the CAR dealing with the nurses, dealing with how it's helping in regards to, let's say, numbers at the police side of it. Is there stats that show the relief that it creates, let's say, on the ER staff at the hospital? For, if we were looking for some way to see interior health expanding some service support, are they seeing a benefit from mitigating people from ending up in, let's say, the ER through this system? Thank you.
Through the chair. So speaking on interior health statistics and stats and what they're gathering, it's not something I'm in a position to do, but like I meet with Madeline on a monthly basis, and Scott Jacobson, and we discuss the impacts of that team and the transition between police to community support, the impacts on ER, how we're able to streamline our clients through. And so I know that there are some definite benefits. I know the relationships that we're having with health providers and police, and having the nurse being able to do some of that pre-work really sort of speeds things up for wait times in the ER. So I just know that because we're having those conversations. I can absolutely suggest that maybe inviting Interior Health for those discussions next time, or if you ever want me to come in and speak specifically on our integrated crisis response team to the RDOS, I'd be happy to do that and work with Madeline or Scott to produce something for everybody here in the room.
Oh, thank you. It looks like there's a question from Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. So I also work in the Emerge doing registration at times, and I've seen officers that have come in and had to wait and with the patient until they're seen by the doctor. With this new program, what is the time difference now? Are you finding that you're back on the streets doing what you need to do versus sitting and waiting? Or is there like, is that gap closing for you guys that you're more effective, I guess?
Through the chair, absolutely. I don't have the breakdown for you of the numbers. It's not just something I just didn't bring, but I do know our wait times are decreasing significantly. And it also just depends too on what the ER, you can never, predict what it's going to be like if it's a busy day or not. If the roads are horrible, do we have a lot of traffic accidents, our wait times could go up. But I think overall on a let's put it in quotation, on a normal day in the ER, we're seeing our wait times are significantly reduced.
That sounds great. One thing that I have to add for question is you did bring it up, and it's of course not around winter, but you mentioned about e-bikes. I have a question around what the service and as a whole, let's say across the province, dealing with electric bikes, scooters, and then, we see a proliferation in the cities, but even rurally, it's quite something of the speed that these people are going on different kinds of devices. I'm wondering whether or not that's added a different challenge. Are there ways that we're looking forward to dealing with health and safety around the use of these kinds of vehicles that are everywhere?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm any sort of traffic expert because I am the farthest thing from. So anecdotally from my discussions with my team, I'm sure that Jay and Brian can probably weigh in there as or some of our area commanders as well, weigh in more around what they're seeing. But I mean, definitely we are seeing that there are more incidences, they're weaving in and out of traffic. We're just talking this week with our media team on spring messaging around safety of scooters. And obviously some of the e-bikes and scooters go at quite a high rate of speed. And so I will let Jay, who will be able to comment probably more fulsomely than me.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm the same. I'm not much of a traffic guru either. So we try and develop our SMEs in different areas. And for me in Osoyoos, I'm developing, taking one of my traffic members and who's more up on the legislation. And what I'm finding through conversations with him is that e-bikes are changing so rapidly, like the development of them and the wattage of them, and the style of them, and different things, that the e-bike development is probably ahead of our legislation. So legislation is slowly changing, and I think it probably needs to change a little quicker, because there's a lot of gray areas we're seeing. Is this bike legal, or is it not? And so my SME is looking into that, and in fact, that was going to be part of my presentation. I was going to be talking about in the next 3 months or so, once we got a program developed and a little more concrete answers, we'll be doing some presentations in Osoyoos. We originally planned to do them. We talked about whether we do them at the schools and invite, because a lot of it is younger kids getting these bikes from their parents, where we do them at the schools and have the parents come, or we can do it as a public forum to talk about e-bikes. I think it's probably more appropriate to do it as a public forum where everyone can come and ask questions, get some answers. So a lot of development still happening in that. Brian may be able to speak a little more to it, but that's kind of where my take on it right now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because we also, I think, at the local government level, we're going to want to be able to more effectively take the information that you provide and see if there's ways that we can send that up the ladder, as it were, in regards to, like you said, changing the bylaws and those things to meet the needs of today. So a lot of times we're quite ignorant about it, and you're on the road getting that information. I think it'd be very helpful. Any other questions? And I'm assuming that you want to carry on with your presentation.
Well, through the chair, I'd like to invite Sergeant Beta to present on his data for Q3.
Thanks. And through the chair, for Osoyoos Rural, calls for Q3 were down slightly compared to Q3 the previous year. We did see an increase in our violent crime totals. 8 scored as assaults, and 5 of those were intimate partner violence. What's unusual is all 5 of those intimate partner violence were different couples. Normally we see repeat occurrences. These were all different couples, and some of them are local. Many of them, or a larger number, were people basically visiting our area for the summer. And so with those cases, what we do is we put them in touch with the supports from their jurisdictions for when they go back, and make sure that they are supported through their issues. Property crime is quite low. We had a very slight increase in auto theft. We did not identify anyone in those, but we did have 2 subjects who were prone to commit auto theft in our community at the time. So there's a possible link there, but we haven't 100% again identified them as the ones. Some good news stuff. Mischief to property is at a 5-year low for this quarter, so that's a positive. Things that we're doing in the community, we did some restorative justice. We're trying to increase our restorative justice basically involvement in some of our files, and we're seeing some good success with that. We got 2 new officers over the last couple of months that started in Osoyoos from Depot, and I have another officer coming from Mission, an experienced police officer. So a little bit of a changeover in who we have working. Really happy with the new officers that we have so far. I talked about the e-bike stuff that we're putting together for some presentations locally. We're also looking at our mental health partnerships. We want to make sure that all of our mental health partnerships are up to date and accurate, so we can provide the correct information to our clients that need it. We talked about whether people are getting out to this training or for fraud or any other type of thing. A lot of those fraud presentations, as Superintendent explained, are requested from certain facilities. So we'll present those at that facility. So it's much easier for the people that live there to go. They don't have to travel somewhere to go to these presentations. So we're trying to do a lot of community stuff to bring awareness to many different areas, whether it be mental health or fraud, e-bikes, what have you. Just touch base very quickly on victim services for our area. All over in Osoyoos share our victim services. And we've just completed, actually earlier this week, we just completed some interviews to fill one of our victim services vacant positions. And we've identified a candidate. And so we'll be reaching out to that person, and if they're still interested, we'll get a ball rolling to get the security clearance done and get them to work as soon as possible, because they are a very valuable asset to us. One thing a lot of people don't realize is touch on sexual assaults. It's often very difficult for a victim to come forward to police. Often they just don't want to involve the police. But there's still different ways that they can report it and get help that they need. And one of those ways is through victim services. So they can report to victim services what's happened to them and get all the assistance they need or directed to the right areas without actually creating a police file. And so we're still able to get them the help without involving us when they don't want to involve us. So I think that's really important, and it just speaks to how extremely important victim services is for our communities. So, and from that, I'll open it to any questions. Thanks.
Perfect. Any question? Looking around, looks like you did such a good presentation that you've answered everything.
There you go. Thank you. Thanks.
I'll just, Staff Sergeant Pollock, and if Duncan McGeorge wants to come up as well, we'll get you.
Good morning, through the chair. I guess I get back up. I'll be presenting for Princeton today. Corporal McDermott is just working today. I let him off the hook. Overall, the stats for the last quarter, calls for service are slightly down. Everything looks pretty decent. What is up is sex offenses and break-in enter residence / break-in enter other. The sexual assault offenses are up a little bit. What's included in that is access to child pornography online. And so we have a bit of a catch net to get those. Doesn't usually involve local victims, but We're working on some of those files, so that's kind of what drove that up. The break-in enter residence, break-in enter other pertains to some seasonal property or rural property break-ins that we had back in August. There was a bit of a wave. One of the people involved in that is actually still in custody from the arrest in August. There's a couple of suspects identified, which we're still working on, and that issue seems to have resolved itself. So we're just working on the files to get those other two, and then the one remains in custody. Going on in Princeton, what's new is there's a new situation table that was stood up, similar to other communities that Corporal McDermott sits on. So in that table, they just, it's a group of community resources, including social workers, bylaws, health nurse, victim services that meet to essentially help people in the community with various life issues, including homelessness, mental health issues, and with their consent, try to work on some solutions to help them out. Other than that, status quo in Princeton. Oh, I can say I'm going to steal Brian's thunder because he's not up here yet, so I can. Traffic stats are pretty consistent from the detachment members, and then to steal Brian, there's 200 and, did I write it down? 285 traffic contacts from BCHP in the Princeton area during the quarter. Any questions?
Nice. Any questions from Princeton area?
Do we know when our new sergeant's coming?
I just messaged with Keith the other day. He's got his house listed. He's got some attention, but hasn't sold it yet. So still, he's anxiously waiting. I believe he's already got some family in the community, so he's. I think he's just gonna eventually come, even if he doesn't sell his house. But I'll let him figure that out on his own. No, sorry, I don't have a hard date. Yeah.
Perfect. Not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I have the stats today from Summerland. I don't know if a lot of you have obviously had a chance to look at the stats. I'm impressed with how they're going overall year over year. It looks like we're down fairly significantly, around 23%. Assaults are way down. Intimate partner violence is down as well as the whole entire violent crime total. There's a couple of stats that stick out. And then when we talked last time about break and enters to businesses, I would say that about half of those on there are from the landfill itself. I know last time I was here, we spoke directly to that. I've been able to connect with the city services and the managers. I meet with them about once a week, and we've been working on a strategy to mitigate sort of the break-ins there. And I think it was 2 weeks ago, we caught someone breaking in and have since charged them. So I expect that number to go down significantly, and as well as the break and enter to the residents. We had a series in Trout Creek where one individual was responsible for, I think it was 3 break-ins there, and so we've actually charged them as well. So aside from that, I think the stats speak for themselves. They're all down pretty significantly. Year over year, we're at 5-year lows for assaults, uttering threats, break and enters to residents, mischief to property, and theft from vehicles. So I think we seem to be doing fairly well in that regard. I just wanted to chat quickly about last week we did the Festival of Lights. It was a really great event. It was the first time since I've been there, I've been able to get out in the community in Red Surge, meet with people, talk to everyone. It was very well received by the community. I had a chance to meet with our MLA and chat with her as well as Mayor Holmes and some of the other councillors. So just a nice event and very well received. So kudos to everyone that came out to that. We've also been working with COPs and we've done some interviews, and I expect that you might have a better answer than I do, but I expect that to be up and running probably early in the new year. I'm hopeful for that, so that's good. Joanne from Victim Services has been out and done a couple of restorative justice things our way as well. So we've been trying to divert especially some of the young kids out to restorative justice as well. So I think that's about all I have. If anyone has any questions?
Perfect. Director Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. You might not want to answer this in public, but the security cameras we have at the landfill, do they help?
They absolutely help. And in fact, in this particular matter, the city staff who was at home that night got an alert on their cell phone and was able to call us instantly, and that actually helped quite a bit. So we were able to see in real time what was happening, and those video cameras are instrumental in our prosecution. So we can take that video camera, provide it straight to Crown, and it's undisputable evidence what happened. So
Okay.
it is quite a benefit, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Because if they weren't, that's maybe you didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
But and then just to follow up, we could have a conversation if there's other places in town we should be considering installing security cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been working with staff, and I meet with the senior management team there weekly, and we've discussed a couple of places probably to put some cameras, and we're having some issues with some of the unhoused using some of the city property with power and with congregating in certain places. So I'm working with them to try to mitigate some of those as well.
Director Barkwell.
Those trending stats are not included in here, but we got them in Summerland. And that's amazing, the how things have gone down in the last 5 years, maybe because the population's getting older, I don't know. But and it's interesting to hear what you say about the landfill, because I was always a skeptic. I thought, well, it's just going to catch somebody with a balaclava on in the landfill too late, but maybe rush up there with the dog and track them down or something. But what are they after at the landfill? Like at one time we were told it was batteries for making meth, and I thought, well, okay, you know, it must be a way of securing them, that you would get rid of the attractant, you might say. What is it now?
It still seems to be batteries of all things. And I think what it is they take the batteries like a car battery, and they're recyclable. And if they take it back to, say, Canadian Tire, Lordco, they get a core fee back from them. So my understanding is they're taking that and recycling them and doing it properly, but they're getting a fee back for it. Whereas that's basically what they're stealing the money to get that fee back.
That's a hard way to make $5.
Yeah.
Any more questions, especially in regards to the Summerland detachment? Director Coyne.
Well, since we're on the topic of landfills, are we finding that it's mostly locals? We've had problems with our landfill over the years as well, and it seems like they come in waves. All of a sudden they hit us and they take our computer and everything, and then other times they take other things that makes no sense. So is it like locals, or is there like a bit of a organization to some of this?
I think in our particular instance, it's locals. The subject that we did charge was local. So the incidents we've had have all been sort of the stealing batteries. We're not breaking into any buildings or anything. It's essentially cutting the fence, hopping the fence, and taking those sort of low value items that are going to be recycled anyway.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, I notice every time I go to the landfill, it's like, boy, I could use that on my barn. I could use that.
That's excellent. We have a suspect. We got a suspect. Yeah.
I think that's a confession.
I was just going to say, do I need to give you your police caution and charter?
There you go. So next we have.
All right. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Lori Rock. I'm the detachment commander for Oliver. Just kind of piggybacking some Sergeant Beta stuff. Q3, summertime, my first summer down in Oliver. Seemed like it was going really well. Lots of tourists, lots of people in the community, which is awesome. I'm going to say our stats are down for property crime just because of all the proactive work we did in Q2. We did a lot of prolific individuals, target a lot of problematic places that put people in jail. So I'm really happy with the stats that we're looking at. Some of the stuff has increased. Is kind of not really a surprise. Some of the thefts, again, recreational properties, people coming back, opening up their cabins and all that and seeing stuff missing. The uttering threats files, I kind of perused through those a little bit. A lot of those are like landlord-tenant disputes. Keeping in mind the rural stats also encompass some of the Okanagan Correctional Center, so some of those threats are from there. I talk to the Okanagan Correctional Center a couple times a month, very good relationships with the deputy warden, so kind of mitigating any threats, assaults from there. We've made a lot of strides in the assault charges there with prosecution. We have a designated Crown here in Penticton that looks at all those files against the correctional officer, so really trying to bolster that. Fraud, again, I think we all see that. I think we all get calls on our personal phones daily on those kind of stuff. So again, the frauds to me, again, on an increase, but nothing shocking. And we too will take those proactive measures to educate our population. Don't need that. We did a lot of foot patrols downtown, just in the water parks, the basketball hoop. We were talking about the court with Director Shahal. Super positive thing with the kids in the community, the skate parks. We had some positive tickets that 7-Eleven donated. So we were down in the community, handing those out to kids and families, trying to engage as much as we can. Our Indigenous policing service, Constable Walsh, she actually arranged a water fight in the summertime that a bunch of us went up to with the emergency services. So that was a great way to engage up there, and obviously ongoing communications with Chief and Council. Restorative justice for us, we've had 2 in the summertime that Joanna Rupenthal came down involving just some youths breaking windows. Again, a very proactive opportunity for us for engagement, not only with the youths and their families, but again, accountability in the community with the schools and stuff as well. We hired a full-time, the town of Oliver was generous enough to have a municipal employee position of the detachment, which is going to significantly help me out in the detachment with administrative stuff, which will again be able to put us on the road a little bit more. So in the process of just doing the background of that, so super happy. Yeah, again, everything, auto theft, break and enter, theft from vehicles, all gone down this quarter. So again, really happy with that. On a personal note, I just, with the support of Superintendent McCandy, I was able to do the Cops for Kids bike ride again this year. So again, just wanted to thank everyone at the table here within your communities. It was such an amazing experience being able to ride into the communities and help. There's so many families in need and kids in our community. So just being able to go through some of the communities, seeing the support was amazing. And it's a 10-day bike ride, and we were able to raise over $300,000 for local. And it all stays in locally, so families come out, and just seeing the need in our communities it's pretty rewarding. So again, thank you for the opportunity for that, and thanks for all of you guys supporting us.
Perfect. Any questions, Director Johansson, or? No? All right. Well, thank you very much. That sounds really exciting, the things that you're involved in.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brad Sabo. I'm the acting commander for the Karamis Detachment. It's my first meeting here, so try and not bumble my way through this. Yeah, so our crime stats are, we're 7% up for the quarter. There's some attributes as to why that's happened. I'll get to that. Violent crimes, we're looking pretty good, I'd say. Our intimate partner violence, we had 1 extra in comparison to the previous year, which is directly related to our uttering threats files. That increase, which was 17 total, was 325% increase from our previous year. It is largely attributed to 1 individual in our community, which we are trying to support. And obviously, it's a weekly response with that individual, so we're doing our best with them. Moving forward to our auto theft, part of our property crime, we did see an increase in that one. 2 of those files, one of them was a historic one from 2024 was reported late. The other one was misreported. It's a take auto without consent. So our real stats are about 68% for an increase, which is still in comparison to last year, which was an all-time low for 5 years. We're well within our 5-year average. So there's not a giant increase there. We have, for the remainder, like breaking in our businesses, residences, and other 0 reports. So our policing in the community is going well. Lots of education for people locking things up, and deterrence. And I think, yeah, it was a pretty average summer in Karamis. It's a post I really like being at. I've been there for 9 years. Actually, yesterday, which I'm hopefully to see in the media this week, will be our Crown the Cruiser event. We ended up filling our trailer that we brought down and raised about $2,000 for the local food bank. And I think we're doing a toy drive with Canco, the fire department, and BC Ambulance on Saturday. So lots of up and coming community things.
Oh, exciting. Do we have any questions from the other directors of the area? No? Well, really appreciate what you've been doing and thank you very much. But I do have one question.
Yes.
Wondering whether the increase in auto thefts and that, is that still attributed to more of a transient group that comes through?
Yes. So there was, I'm just going to go to my notes here on that one. So we did have a multi-jurisdictional known offender who was actually apprehended in Hope with one of our stolen vehicles and a plate from, I think it was Oliver. So yeah, again, not people that are associated. They travel through. Kearmias is kind of the nexus for the entire region. Everybody has to come through our point in order either to get to the Lower Mainland or into the Okanagan. So that's generally what we see with our crimes. One thing the superintendent did remind me is we are getting a new recruit coming. I don't have a date yet, but we are going to be adding to our staff. So.
Oh, that's great. I have a question from Director Coyne.
I'll be nice.
Spencer.
We go way, way, way back. The auto theft one, I'm guessing the same people that come through Princeton do the same thing. Same fine locations and all that. The theft from autos, is that similar to ours as well, where they're people leaving their cars unlocked and it's some local, but it's also some that show up in town and then they just start walking streets trying to open doors, right?
I would probably agree with that. From my experience in going on my 18th year policing, theft from vehicles are essentially crimes of opportunity. People walk down, they see doors unlocked, people aren't leaving their change or other items, cell phones out of view. So if you make yourself an easy target, that's very likely to increase our numbers.
Perfect.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions. Appreciate that information.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here today. I'm Sergeant Brian Evans with the BC Highway Patrol. So just here to provide a little bit of an update on those quarter stats for Highway Patrol. Totals for the region, I won't go to each community, but we had about just over 1,250 violation tickets this summer. So a little lower than normal due to some staffing shortages during that time and some other priorities that came up with Fatal and Oliver, serious collision that we were tied up on for quite some time. However, that's improving now. So we have additional resources coming in. So that's starting to normalize with Highway Patrol. So we have a new supervisor who's joined the team. We have a new recruit who was trained with the assistance of Penticton and Summerland. So detachments providing that venue for training our new recruit, who's also a local, grew up in Kearmias. So it's nice to have a local person join the team. So it's fantastic. Constable Gill. And we have two other people identified to come into Highway Patrol in the spring here. So really we have one final vacancy, unfortunately, which is Princeton, which we're working hard to fill as well. In addition to the enforcement aspect, we're providing our regular assistance with attending motor vehicle collisions, quite a few actually in the whole Princeton in that area seems to be the most common area where our members out there and providing some assistance and support to Princeton so that they can, don't have to drive out 50 kilometers to go to a collision necessarily. We can take care of those minor ones while we're out there. So we do all sorts of things like that throughout the region, which is in support of our partners here. As far as other things that we do recently, we've been picking up doing some joint checks with conservation as well, doing hunter checks during the peak season. So that was good. We've had some good results working with them. And we also picked up an enforcement on the construction zone in the Summerland slide area in advance of the construction ramping up again. So the speeds were quite high coming through there when we started that, and certainly noticed a big drop after the enforcement that was very visible for about a month there, and we've noticed a change in the driving behavior there, so that's good. I can speak to a couple things that came up during the other presentation. So as far as e-ticketing goes, how that works, essentially it's data quality, so it provides for a much more consistent and higher quality product, less errors. So when those, and the tickets are immediately submitted to the province for processing. So it's a fantastic improvement on the system. So we're getting less rejections from the province due to e-ticketing. And like I said, if someone gets a violation ticket, it's automatically uploaded so the province, they can deal with that fine right away. So e-ticketing is a really good improvement for across the province. In regards to e-bikes, there is legislation out. The legislation is clearly defines several different classes of e-bikes. We all know, especially in the city here in Penticton, where I live, they're prolific everywhere, and there's a lot of different types of e-bikes. The piece in my perspective that needs to be put out to the public is education from the province level. So it's a provincial issue. Parents are buying e-bikes, and I see them buying electric motorcycles, essentially is what they are, dirt bikes. And you've got 14-year-olds driving around without helmets on. It's scary. And it's very challenging for us to deal with that, because if they take off, it's a challenge and it's a safety issue. And we don't want someone to crash because we're trying to stop them because they're not wearing a helmet or it's an e-bike violation. So it's education is the key from the provincial level. So that's what I would advocate for is some, whether it's an advertising campaign or something from the province to get the messaging out there that what is legal, what isn't, and the hazards associated to it, right? And perhaps some stats from the medical system as well on how many collisions and things that are happening and how people are being injured. So that's the messaging I have about that. So, yeah.
If there's any questions for Sergeant Evans.
Perfect. I have Director Coyne first and then Director Barkwell.
There we go. First off, thanks for it's visible, the presence now between Princeton and Penticton. This morning I passed a couple of your members. One had a guy pulled over that was obviously going way too fast in this condition, so that's good. It's slowed down now, but we had that one trucking company that was coming out of the Comont area that we were having problems with, couple crashes and some other problems. So is there a way we can pick up CVSE to come to town and work with you guys and kind of do some extra enforcement on these guys? Because I mean, they're the main problems or complaints I get aren't, I mean, still speeding through town, but it's those trucks that are not really doing their job right. And I mean, we got lucky with that one car up on the Operation and whatnot, but our luck's gonna run out. So is there a way we can work with those guys and get them into town? We don't even see them in town anymore, so.
Yeah, there is. I can speak to that. We do work with CVSC regularly and work on what we call joint force operations, so working together, doing road checks and things. I know we have been to Princeton up at Sunday Summit and was working some projects there. It is an issue of just coordinating when they're available and when they're not, but that is a priority for us, is commercial vehicle enforcement as well, and to work with CVSC on those issues. So yes, and I can certainly see, encourage my members to try to plan some more in the Princeton area. We do a lot at the Caledon area and place like that, but we'll work on that. Yeah.
Director Barkwell.
Thank you. In the traffic enforcement area again, I was at ICBC one time and they told me that ICMP vehicles are going to be equipped with equipment that scans license plates as you drive around and such, stolen cars, expired licenses and such. Is that coming to fruition, you might say? Is that actually going forward? Because I haven't heard anything about it since. And I know for years and years, there was equipment that could go through parking lots and almost every time they'd find something.
Well, I can speak to that. We do have 2 vehicles. It's called automatic license plate recognition software. And there's cameras that are on the car. So we actually have 2 police cars for highway patrol that are equipped with that. So we do use that technology. So it is out there. Yeah. It's just not on every vehicle. There's an expense to it. But it is being used right now.
Thank you. The next question's from Director Monteith.
Thanks. So I was kind of waiting for a good time to ask this question. So just to kind of bring the board up to speed a little bit. So we had a board meeting last Thursday. The Wednesday before, I had a call from a resident in Caledon who had a 3rd vehicle leave the highway, enter his property, to kind of like Dukester Hazard off the Highway 97, landing on his property. Called me on the Wednesday, obviously distraught that it had happened again. Called again Thursday, it happened again. So I guess I'm concerned that even a CVA vehicle can't navigate that turn at a speed, and speed seems to be a factor there. And I've been advocating to Ministry of Transportation to do some continued work since they fixed the safety issues at Highway 3A 97. It's kind of pushed it further north, right along the Caledon Highway section. So I guess I'm looking for some guidance on some sort of support on what we can do to make that area safe. I mean, here's one property had 4 vehicles land on their property in the last, since 2022. It's scary, and speed is a factor. So our patrol is going to be increased in that whole sector as well. Like I've heard lots of conversation about Princeton, and I guess your resources are stretched, but I'm concerned.
Okay. Absolutely understand. I know exactly the property you're talking about. And, you know, design of highways and those things, that's up to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit that has a process to evaluate that. That's certainly something I can bring up in our meetings that we have on occasion with them and the stakeholder meetings, and bring that forward to them as far as a concern goes. And I drive through that area multiple times a day. There's a lot of enforcement that gets done through that zone, actually, quite a bit. So I don't know how much we can really increase it much more as far as the highway patrol goes, because we're there regularly. And yeah, it's a challenging spot for sure to address that, where that residence is located down the bank and right off the highway. So if someone goes off, they're likely going to go down into that yard, right? So that's something that we can bring up or address with the ministry, and that's the process to go through for that.
Follow up?
Yes, and thank you. So I have brought it to their attention. Second year asking for a study to be done of that section of the highway. That was the promise after we did the Highway 3A 97 upgrade, is that we would move to doing a study of that section of the highway. It's now time. Like, we really need to do that. So Modi's got it on their project list for the 2nd year running, hoping they get it funded this year. We have a backup plan, but I do want to be able to reach out and ask for some support as I continue to navigate that and
Yeah, I certainly would advocate for a change or an improvement to that as well, and that's what I'll do when an opportunity arises.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions, but I do have one. And when we have speed changes along the highway, so for instance, north of Karamias on 3A, coming towards the bypass, it's changed to 70, where before it was 90 all the way through to Upper Bench, or just before Upper Bench. And I know about the change because you've asked for it, and we've kind of got that happen, but it's still, a lot of people aren't attuned to the change, and I'm still seeing people whipping through there. And usually we see from Modi a sign that says new or something, but I'm wondering if they reach out to your department, because sometimes when something's new, if we can have a cruiser, parking nearby, and then that just kind of slows everybody down and gives them an opportunity to see this has been a big change, and it's just recently happens.
Yeah, again, you're right. Modi is, or Mott, they changed their name, as is in control of changing those speeds. And I was aware as well, just recently prior to it being implemented, that was going to be changed. We do again, we're coming through there all the time doing enforcement as we're traveling to and from the detachment in Caramias, because it's very close to the detachment. So speeds, I have been monitoring them quite closely, and we are there. As far as parking a vehicle there, I'm not sure we could do that for too long, but we could certainly look at doing something, a little bit more enforcement there. I haven't noticed the speeds being overly high. Some people are still doing 90. So it's an education piece initially, especially for the locals, just to maybe stop once in a while and someone and say, hey, the speed limit's changed, slower down, and give a bit of a grace period as far as before we start writing a lot of violation tickets to people when there's been a change like that.
Yes, thank you. And that's what I was alluding to. It's more that education piece, or at least grab their attention. I'll go after Mott and see if they can put something on it that just says new, so it grabs people attention. My daughter said it took her forever to realize that it changed. And I said, yeah. So thanks a lot.
All right.
So I don't see any other questions to Sergeant Evans. No, not seeing any. I'll put it back to the superintendent.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for this opportunity to provide a regional Q through update. And I just, I don't think I need to do this in grandstand, but I think it's evident to everybody in the room the amazing work that our regional commanders are doing in leading your community safety strategies, supporting their teams. We all know that the summer months show an incredible influx to our communities because we are a destination location, and our commanders have navigated adversity, challenges with resources, challenges with natural disasters, motor vehicle incidences, and they show up at their best every day, fill in the gaps, and I'm really proud of the team that we have, and I just want the opportunity to thank them. And thank you for those of you stepping up to fill in as acting roles, doing a great job on your first presentation. And just Sergeant Evans doesn't have to be here today as a member of BC Highway Patrol, but it just goes to show the amount of engagement, support that he has in leading his team in Caramias and partnering with each and every one of us in our communities. And I'm grateful for that relationship. So with that, I wish you an amazing holiday season with your families, with your communities. And again, we are proud to serve your communities as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So thank you very much. Take care.
We really appreciate that. I do have one question from Director Bush.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was.
I was just curious, with OK Falls becoming a new city, would there be a detachment there in the future?
Those are for discussions to have for sure, absolutely. But that's not really something that's come to for discussion as of yet.
Well, following up on your wonderful ending there, it was, again, season's greetings to all you, your family and friends, and really appreciate all that you provide for our communities and the great work that all of your team is doing. Again, thank you very much and really appreciate you here.
I'd like to end in
Yeah.
also a little shout out to the community policing. Joanne's name has come up a couple of times. I didn't know she was a resource available to us. She's been a great help setting up, Citizens on Patrol in Summerland, and she's funded in part by the RDOS here and is available to each of the communities. So I don't think community policing is appreciated enough generally. Thanks.
Well, again, thank you for your presentation. It was great. Thank you. All right, I don't see anything else on our agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn the Protective Services? Second, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. Well, we'll pass it back to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Director Roberts. We'll move straight into the regular board meeting. We do have a consent agenda there, so anybody have anything on the consent agenda that you want to discuss? Now's the time to move it into the regular portion of that meeting. Not seeing anything there. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Yeah, we have a quorum with the folks online. We just have enough? That motion carries. Consent agenda corporate issues. Motion to adopt that. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to item B, development services, building inspection, and over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. Purpose of this report is to seek board direction on adding maximum time parameters to the building bylaw enforcement policy and improving efficiency within the enforcement process. There is a PowerPoint presentation, and is the recommendation going to be on? And there is a recommendation that's going to be on your screen
In a moment.
in a moment.
Okay, over to staff.
All right, just going to pull up the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm just going to try and provide a little bit more background on the policy change. It was motivated through the 2025 strategic priorities. So just the RDOS board's role in enforcement, so providing that strategic direction, which they did in 2025, so setting that vision, priorities for the RDOS. We want to make sure that enforcement supports the community goals. Policy development, so creating a clear and consistent, transparent policy for continuity and fairness. Changes to policies will have some resource allocation effects. This particular one that's been proposed should make it more efficient and hopefully reduce some legal costs. And then overall, just the democratic fairness. We want to make sure we have clear, transparent policies. If we get challenged on our enforcement, the ombudsman is going to investigate our policies, our directives, and how we acted. So we want to make sure that it's democratically sound. The building official's role in enforcement. So when a file comes to you, it's our last option. Like our building officials, they go through the internal directive, they educate the property owners. They're going to want to work with them and be seen as an asset versus a liability. If we don't get any action with just the general communication, we have proactive letter campaigns. We send out information letters encouraging the corrective action before enforcement. It is the most efficient way. Bring it to the board as our last resort. So we want to foster communication. We want to get their trust. So when we do speak with them, they trust that what we're saying is accurate and true. So we have our building officials, they have their code of ethics. They take their job very seriously. And it's tough delivering bad news, but we try and do it in a way that supports the process as a whole. So within our current enforcement policy, we have 3 defined enforcement categories. So category 1, you would not see. So this is like, let's say someone didn't complete some siding on a building. They're just not doing it, or they didn't do their final coat of stucco. We've tried working with them. We've withheld the final inspection, or we have a couple small punitive measures that we could use. Eventually, we would just send them a letter of deficiency and put a notice in the folio file. So there is some records should that house get sold and someone wanted to do their diligence, they could dig into the folio file, get those records and see what was. But generally, they're usually obvious to new purchasers, so a home inspector might be able to pick up on it. So they're usually visually present to a potential purchaser, and they wouldn't be significant enough to cause any health and safety concerns. A category 2, so this is starting to get into the realm, there could pose some lower health and safety risks to the people, not enough that we're really concerned. I.e. a deck without a permit, that picture is maybe not the greatest one. If it had let's say the door was closed off and there's no access to it, we may resolve just to put a notice on title. I was asked to discuss how do you correct a notice on title? And so if we do place a notice on title, which you will see the recommendations often come to you as that, the homeowner later on would obtain a deficiency permit through the RDOS. And the cost of that is $1,000 if it did not proceed to a lawyer and $1,500 if it did proceed to a lawyer. And once they complete the work, we perform the final inspection, we document it, and then we make a recommendation to remove the notice on title. And just for facts, in the last 2 months, it is an effective process. It can be a longer timeline to get compliance, but we've had 5 deficiency permits applied for in the last 2 months. So the files you do see come to the board recommending a notice on title, they do eventually come full circle, but you wouldn't see the final deficiency permit permits because it's dealt with staff. And then the third category is reserved for the most high-risk infractions. So it's ones where our building official it does pose a risk to the public. It's our strongest form of enforcement, and it's one that we recommend Section 302, notice on title, and injunctive action. So the one thing I do want to highlight, though, the process for obtaining injunctive relief is lengthy and expensive, but it is necessary to ensure that we can uphold our health and safety standards. So under the strategic priorities, we were requested to investigate it. We did poll our other regional districts. We tried to see if anyone else had this incorporated into their policy. Many did not, but we did find one. They had a 2-year time frame we felt was a little short. It would make it difficult for us to operate effectively with the amount of work we do to try and get voluntary compliance. So we debated going on what sort of timeline would be fair, and a 10-year timeline came up in other avenues. Regional districts and municipalities for new buildings generally have a 10-year statute of liability. Like there's a time frame where they're liable for new issued permits. Although it is not the exact same thing, this 10-year time frame kept coming up. Engineers as well, when they sign off on building, it's typically a 10-year liability time frame. So it seemed like a good one. It seemed consistent with other liabilities. We haven't passed that through legal. There would still be some liabilities taken on by the regional district, adding a timeline framework to this. But it does affect how we'd apply the 3 enforcement categories. So the wording that we're proposing is building permit files more than 10 years old or newly discovered contraventions related to construction completed more than 10 years prior will be treated as category 1 or category 2 deficiencies unless an immediate life safety concern is identified by the building official. So it still does allow some discretion on the building official if they feel there's a significant life safety concern to the public, that we would still recommend a category 3. But it makes it more transparent on the older files. We do come across old garages that are 20 years old, and it's difficult. And I can tell you through surveying other municipalities, it is a common concern that's not discussed a lot. So just some real world examples. We have a 12-year-old workshop addition constructed without a permit. The building official observed no immediate health and safety concerns. That puts them in a bit of a tough spot. So previously, we would be recommending a Section 302 notice on title plus injunctive action. If the proposed policy timeline framework was adopted, we'd just recommend a 302 notice on title. Another example, we have a 15-year-old deck. Let's say we discovered through aerial photos. Maybe a neighbor complained. Sometimes we get complaints through neighbor disputes. Previously, we would recommend, currently we'd recommend a Section 302 notice on title. Under the proposed policy, barring that there is no significant health and safety items noted, we'd do a category 1, a deficiency notice letter to the owner, and a copy is placed in the folio file for future reference. So why is a timeline clause significant? So it does reduce the burden on property owners for older violations that do not pose immediate safety risks. So a lot of these properties have sold. They didn't know there was a violation. We find out, we're forced to use our board enforcement policy. This gives a bit more of a, it matches the enforcement actions better to the actual risk posed. It streamlines our internal process by focusing RDOS resources on current high-risk issues, reserving injunctive relief on older files for only the most severe cases. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, I'll see if the board has any questions on this. Director Coyne Senior, start with you.
I'd like to make the administrative recommendation and then I'll speak to it afterwards.
Okay, so you're moving it, it's seconded, it's on the floor. Go ahead, Director Coyne.
Yeah, this is something that was, I mean, I brought it up a couple of years ago, and last year we got it on the strategic plan for the year. And I think this is something that's way overdue.
we've had so many incidences over the years where you get somebody new that moves into a neighborhood and they don't like something that's on somebody else's property that was built without a permit however long ago. And, you know, we just kind of, for years, administration just says, well, it's existing non-conforming, but that doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing as that. This makes it basically legal, sort of. But it really clears things up. And there are so many buildings that have been built in the rural areas. I'm not familiar with what goes on in urban areas, but in the rural areas, they're everywhere. Like there's sheds and things like that that are they're just all over the place. We had one out at Missoula Lake a couple of years ago where, you know, there was a complaint against one particular building that was there, and yet, and it was one of those park models. Because it was skirted in, it made it illegal. And yet you go 2 houses up the street and there's a travel trailer with a roof built directly on top of it. But somebody was mad at that person, so they called the regional district, and that person ended up losing their home out of the deal. So this just makes everything so much clearer, and kudos to Mark for the work that he's done on this. This has been an elephant in the room for years, and I really strongly support this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the comments. Anybody else have any questions or comments on this? Director Taylor.
Yeah, to staff, just curious where sewer and power at lack of permitting would drive an application or a situation. So, I mean, you roll up and you see the deck's not permitted. Do you check that the electrical is permitted, that sewer is permitted?
Yeah. Go to staff.
Through the chair. So for a deck, generally there wouldn't be electrical connections, but let's say the addition that I showed there, BC Technical Safety is responsible for enforcing electrical connections, so we would notify them. So they're the jurisdiction that would actually enforce on electrical connections and unsafe electrical work. In terms of septic and sewer, so if we own the sewer connection, we would have the ability to potentially have some punitive measures. But if it's a septic, for example, last board meeting, there was an enforcement file brought up and is recommended for section 302 notice on title. We'd notify Interior Health, who's actually the enforcement agency for septic systems and unauthorized septic systems. So we help facilitate that process, but they are actually the ones who have jurisdiction over forcing unsafe septic systems to be upgraded. And there is a bit of a relationship, and I don't want to get too far into that, but they would have the ultimate power. So,
okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing any hands. We do have the motion on the floor. This is a corporate vote. So all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you, staff, on that. Down to section C, development services. Item C1 is a DVP in Area E. Over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. This application is seeking a variance to the prohibition against using holding tanks as a method on site sewage disposal system that applies to the subject property in order to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling. There is no PowerPoint presentation. Staff is here, and the recommended motion will be on the screen shortly.
Okay, I'll go to Director Federico. Direction on this one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll move the staff administrative recommendation.
Okay, you're moving it. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Oh, Director Monteith, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. Have we approved this sort of process before? And I actually, I actually know of one, and I can speak to that one. So
Over to staff, I think.
To the chair, yes, for both this application and the application immediately following on the board agenda, the board did consider an identical DVP application back in 2022. That permit lapsed before construction of the house could commence. And so this application is just seeking reapproval of that variance that was approved 3 years ago.
Okay. Follow up to that, Director Monty?
So in Caledon, there is a home that has a holding tank. It's actually across from the school, its location. And the reason they have a sewage holding tank is that their property is all rock. Their house is built up on stilts. They've got nowhere to put a septic system. So I understand the need for it, but the chronic smell and odor that come from that tank is an issue. So I'm just, the board is aware that we do have them in one in my area that the community wishes we didn't. So just putting that there.
I think there's supposed to be a good plan of how they're pumped out regularly and all that. Do we have such a requirement in this, or do we see a plan from them?
To the chair, that falls within the jurisdiction of Interior Health Authority.
Okay, so we don't see.
My understanding, as part of the application required for a holding tank with Interior Health, is evidence of a pump and haul contract, and that was included in the application materials submitted by the applicant.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got Director McCordoff.
Thank you. I see that this property is right on the lake or water body. It really concerns me that there could be leakage. There could be, it would ruin the water if something happened and it got in there. So I think we need to be much more diligent in making sure that if that's what they're allowing there, that it has to be emptied out on a very strategic basis. And I'm concerned that there's the option to have something catastrophic happen, and I don't like it one bit. So I'm hoping that that will be part of the plan, that they have to show what they've done, how they've had it drained, and that it's in good working order. Is that kind of thing being brought up? And I don't think we can depend on Interior Health to do it. So I'd like to see some other measures in place.
Go to staff.
To the chair, similar to the previous question, that does fall within the authority of Interior Health. In order to construct a holding tank, a permit is required from Interior Health. And as part of that application, similar to the pump and haul contract, the system does need to be designed by an authorized person. In this case, that was a professional engineer. And the basis of the design in this case, as I understand it, was that professional engineer felt that the only safe way to accommodate sewage disposal on these sites was in order to provide a holding tank. And there were some safety measures included with that holding tank design submitted by the professional engineer to Interior Health and ultimately approved by Interior Health before the regional district received this application.
Okay. Director Coyne?
Yeah, I mean, I understand everybody's concerns. What I'm concerned about is that this was already approved once. They went out, they did all this stuff that they were told to do. They've spent all this money. They've got all their permits in place. Now they're just coming back because it took longer, as everything's taking longer to get all those permits. So, I mean, I don't see a problem with this. They've met all the requirements under our wishes as well as the Interior Health and the provinces. So I don't see a problem with it at this point, and because we did already approve it once.
Director Fedrigo.
Thank you to the chair. So in Area E, we are still currently working on our liquid waste management plan. So even though septic systems are not, or holding tanks are not our jurisdiction, there can be language that can be looked at, that can be put within the liquid waste management plan to just encourage all residents on septic systems to take good care of them, and included in that then can be the holding tank. So although not our responsibility, language can be put in documents for our community that support everyone to take good care of their systems.
Okay. Not seeing any other hands. This one is a rural vote. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C2, over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. This application is seeking a variance to the prohibition against using holding tanks as a method of on-site sewage disposal system that applies to the subject property, which is 4545 Mill Road, to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling. Staff's here to answer questions, and the recommended motion will be on the screen.
Back to Director Federico. Direction on this one.
I'll move the staff administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved, seconded. Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion here? Very similar to the last one, so I don't suspect so. I'll call the question. A rural vote. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C3, DVP in Area G, CAO.
Thank you. This application is seeking a variance to the wastewater service requirements under the Regional District Subdivision and Development Service Bylaw 2900-2024 in order to allow a proposed subdivision that will result in 2 new parcels with approximate land area of 372 square meter that will be served on an on-site sewage disposal system. Staff's here to answer questions, and again, the recommended motions on the screen.
Okay, I'll go to Director Roberts. Direction on this one?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a motion for the alternate to accept and speak on it. Thank you.
Okay, it's seconded. It's on the floor. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And I do understand people's concerns. This is one of these situations that's frustrating. Headley in and of itself is, I believe, stands kind of alone. It's also something that very similarly, when we talk about it's approved by the province 2 doors up to do exactly the similar division. It's just that the person hadn't amalgamated their lot. So there is community water. It is an approved system through Interior Health. And we have precedents in the community of those size lots that have been put in place and supported by lands and titles. So it's kind of a mixed message that's brought by the province, puts us in a difficult place. And again, it fits the form and character of Headley, not, of course, the rest of Area G. So this is why I'm supporting it being a alternate and being accepted, as it fits basically form and character of the whole village. And it's something that's been ongoing in regards to the sizes of the lots in that community. And again, supported by the water system and supported by Interior Health. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Director Taylor?
Yep, I really commend Director Roberts for trying to get the best he can for his residents. But we have applications for grant funding for hundreds of individuals, and we've received staff recommendation and legal opinion that suggests those grants could be jeopardized by approving applications like this. So the only way to find out, of course, is to actually go ahead and do it. But to me, the risk seems pretty high. Like I said, we are applying now for grants for, I don't know, 700 people, millions of dollars. Are we going to jeopardize that as much as we would like to help an individual, are we going to jeopardize 600 or 700 individuals? So I can't support this.
Okay, I've got Director Coyne and then Monteith.
I'm still confused as to how something that happens outside of the Okanagan Basin Water Board area has any influence over what happens inside that area. I'm struggling with this. So this meets all the requirements as far as Director Roberts and I can read as to the letter of the legislation that's there. So I don't understand how this is not being is in contradiction to that. We've looked it up, we've looked up the amendments, we've done all that, and it still fits within it. So I don't understand.
I would just point out the fact that OBWB grants are one thing. It's also the provincial grants, and that is region-wide. It's nothing to do with Okanagan versus Smilkameen. So,
But again, it fits within the legislation that Director Roberts and I can find.
it's policy, not legislation. But go to the CAO and then Director Monteith.
So you are correct. It's not just the OBWB they have to worry about, it's the provincial policies. The staff that looks at the recommendations for the grants, and right now we have $23 million worth of grants that we are hoping to get. Cross my fingers. However, one of the criteria that they look at is the regional district or those that are applying accepting the 1 hectare policy. And if they don't tick off that box. So there is a risk BC-wide, not just OBW, that we can lose grants.
Okay, Director Monteith.
So I guess I'm questioning the process here because when you speak about the regional district losing grants, the municipalities sitting at this table also are part of that, but they don't have a vote because this is a rural vote. So the rural directors are voting on something that could directly impact the municipalities and their applications. Is that correct?
I don't believe so, but I'll go to the CAO.
I don't believe so. They're separate than us. They're not voting one way or the other. If it was a weighted vote, then yes, but it's not.
Okay, follow up, Director Monteith.
So following that same logic, how come the Similkameen is impacting us and we're impacting them? Because it's the exact same thing, right? Like if their rules are different or their zonings are different, like how are we putting the same groups together when we're separating?
It's provincial and it's RDOS policy, regional policy, but go to the CAO.
I couldn't have said it better. It is one region working together. Each municipality is self-contained, but so are we. We are 9 electoral areas that they consider that as one.
I've got Director Roberts and then Bush.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I think some of my frustration too comes from the province. To me, it's like make it a policy, makes it easy for me. Otherwise, it comes across as just bullying. We're not going to give you this carrot. Here's the carrot, but here's the stick, rather than just saying this is the policy, or again the bylaw except through the province. But that's still my frustration. Thank you.
Okay, Director Bush.
So who decides on subdivisions? Is it just the regional district or is it the province?
Subdivision is generally provincial approving officers.
Yeah, so if we okay this and the province doesn't like it, then that's fine. If they approve it, then it's good.
I'm not sure whether that's actual fact or not, but Director Monteith.
Thank you. Is there any examples of regional districts or municipalities being turned down because they're not following this 1 hectare rule?
Go to staff.
Chair, not that we're aware of. We could try and do some more research, but not that we're aware of.
Okay. Conversely, though, on that, there's no actual proof that anybody's not following the policy. I happen to be probably the only board member on the board here that was here when this policy was brought in, and it was in relation to a Northwest Sewer project in Osoyoos. The province at that time had said we had the grant, but they wouldn't send us the check until we had the 1 hectare policy in place. That's how it came about. That's when it was put in place. We, at the time, tried to argue the fact that maybe the Similkameen shouldn't be put in, but they said, no, it had to be region-wide. Now, that's happened. If we go against our own policy, that's always an option, but we risk grants. As soon as they hear about it, they're looking for excuses to put grants elsewhere. That's the first thing that they're going to look at. Keep it in mind. Director Coyne.
So essentially what we're saying is there's no more subdivisions in Headley. There's no more subdivisions in Comont. There's no more subdivisions in Tulameen. There's no more subdivisions in any of the developed areas within the Similkameen is what we're saying. So downtown Costin, we can't subdivide because they're all going to be within less than 1 hectare. Even, and the ones that don't have a community water system, like unlike Headley that does have a community water system which allows for this, we're saying we're not going to be able to subdivide any further in any of those communities that are in those areas.
The potential is there unless they do a liquid waste management plan that allows them to
Put
do
that on the
elsewhere.
record that don't buy property thinking that.
Yeah, absolutely. Director, over to Chris.
Just to clarify for the board's benefit too, because we did recently have that discussion around regulating private utilities. Area G did opt out, and there is an option or an alternative solution for the property owner, which is to create a strata system, and that would satisfy the community sewer system requirements in order to allow subdivision to occur.
A community sewer system of 1? 2 lots? Okay. That makes sense. Director McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. We've had a Okanagan Basin Water Board meeting this week, was on Tuesday. And one of the main objectives on our priorities for next year, for 2026, is to look at the 1 hectare policy. The staff totally understand how confusing it can be. And it's literally #1 on the list to deal with. So I think you'll be hearing more back because of course, all of these issues and small houses and smaller lots and so on, it's going to be an issue. So please know that they're thinking about it.
Okay. Oh, back to Director Taylor.
Yeah, I just, like as I said, I understand where you're coming from. I just want to raise the point that we've spent a year on 3 systems trying to work them through, and we've assured their residents that we will do our best to get grants for them. 4 systems that we'll do our best to get grants for them. And so it seems to me that if we believe that your line of logic is correct, we should be asking the province to acknowledge that before we jeopardize grants, rather than doing it, losing the grants, and then we know that we had them jeopardized. So to me, it seems, I totally support trying to do this, but ask the question, get it finalized. And the last point I'd make is we would never hear about all the grants that are declined for non-compliance. We wouldn't hear about that. We would within our region, but not within other regions that might have this 1 hectare policy.
Director Bush.
Yeah, is there a way we could ask OBWB with this personal question or what incident or whatever you call it? Because it's a different, I don't know if they would okay it and still, I mean, it's worth a shot. And the other thing is, well, let's put this off till the grants come through.
Yeah. Did staff want to answer his question? Could we put a question to OBWB, CAO?
Yes, and we will.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, so again, it's provincial policy. It's not just OBWB. I have had conversations with the province, and essentially they aren't in a position to consider individual applications. Their process for an exemption is essentially the liquid waste management process where they'll look at an area holistically.
That's the liquid waste management plan. Director Roberts?
Yeah, thank you. Kind of along the lines of Director Bush, I was wondering whether or not if that discussion with the province and OBWB was going to be looking at the 1 hectare rule. Could I postpone this until that discussion takes place and there's more of a chat, as well as if the CAO's looking into other, so we just don't, at least clears the muddy waters.
I'll go to the CAO.
What I was thinking is, and Mr. Fellini is correct, we both talked to the province about this 1 hectare, is approaching OBWB and see if they would support and write a letter to the province stating that they support this. That's the best that we can do. As far as waiting to see if we get grants and make a decision, that's not going to help future grants.
No.
So I've got it as an action item, and we can go from there.
Okay, Director Bush?
Kind of, the problem with one rule that suits everybody or suits the whole area isn't good. For instance, I have an acreage that wants to be subdivided that has a separate house, separate septic tank, separate well. So like on a big lot, and the lady wants to subdivide because she can't look after the big lot anymore. But it has 2 separate septics, water, and houses. So if you made one rule for everybody, then this one, which makes sense, it's already there, wouldn't be allowed.
If it's under 1 hectare under this current policy, that would be the case. Director Holmes?
I think if Naramata can do a liquid waste management plan, I don't see why Headley can't do one. I don't see why Costin or Tulameen or any other place that needs to one. I understand it's an onerous process and takes quite a while, but maybe if I don't know if it's possible, but if everybody in the SMIL community that wants to do this, do these kind of subdivisions, you could get one contract doing a liquid waste management plan for all these smaller places. I just think this is going to come up again. So deal with it. Get a liquid waste management plan.
Okay. Director Coyne online?
This question, I guess, goes through to Chris. How the 1 hectare rule, how did that affect the lot lines adjustment, which they called a subdivision in Tulameen, on the one on George Street last year? How was that different than what's happening here today?
I
Just
can't
for
recall that one, but I'll
clarification.
go to Chris.
Director Coyne, you make me feel my age. I can't remember the specifics of that one, but I mean, for the board's benefit, and I think it might have fallen under some exemptions that exist within the zoning bylaw and the subdivision servicing bylaw, where if there are no new parcels being created, the 1 hectare requirements don't apply. And so generally, if it's a lot line adjustment or a boundary consolidation or whatnot, that meets that exemption because you're not increasing density. So I apologize, I can't remember the example in Tulameen, but I suspect that's probably how it was able to occur.
Yeah. Just for a point of information, it also is exempt on home site severances within the ALR. You can actually, that's the one exemption the province allows. Director Roberts?
Well, is it possible to defer this until we have this information back?
It's always possible to defer.
Okay.
Someone wants to make that motion?
I'll move to defer.
All right, no discussion on deferral, so I'll call the question, and it is then corporate, I think, on deferral. So all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C4, an official community plan amendment in Area G, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. This application is seeking to amend the official community plan designation and applying zoning to a portion of the subject property in order to provide for future development capacity for the land. Staff's here to answer questions, no PowerPoint presentation, and the recommended motions on the screen.
I'll go to Director Roberts. Direction on this one.
Yeah, I'd like to support the motion moving forward. That's staff's.
Okay, so you're moving adoption. Is there a seconder? Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion on this one? I think this one was from our last meeting, actually. Just next step. So call the question, roll vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C5, fees and charge bylaw, CAO.
Thank you. The proposed amendments to the Regional District Fees and Charges Bylaw 3097-2025 are intended to introduce a new provision to allow for the recuperation of land fees associated with the preparation of legal documents such as statutory covenants or phase development agreements associated with applications seeking to amend official community plan bylaw and or zoning bylaw. The recommended motions on the screen. Staff's here to answer questions.
Okay. Direction on this one? Someone prepared to move it? Everybody's sitting. Mover, seconder. Seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Director Taylor.
Has the development world been approached on this, and have they had any comments?
I see shaking of the head no on that. Okay. Any other discussion on it? Not seeing any hands. We'll call the question. I believe this one is a corporate vote on the fees and charges. So all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C6, the proposed Provincial Professional Reliance Act, Bill 216, M216, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to outline options for the board in relation to the proposed Professional Reliance Act that is tentatively set to be considered by the Legislative Assembly in British Columbia in its current session. You've received a number of emails from me with letters from various local governments expressing their concerns as recently as last night from the Municipal Insurance Association also. I did ask staff to put in their thoughts here. Staff's here to answer any of your questions, and the recommended motion is on the screen.
Okay, Director Federico.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move this and then I'll like to speak to it.
Okay, moved, seconded. It's on the floor. Go ahead, Director Federico.
Thank you. I don't know how to be political on this one, but I'm not really sure what the province is thinking. I don't think there's any local government in the province that's supporting this bill coming through. And in my eyes is kind of ridiculous. So the strongly worded that can go to the province or UBCM with how ridiculous this is, the better, because I mean, we lived through it with the professional reliance model. I have a giant bare wasteland land that's being developed right now because depending on who your practitioner is that can put it through, if there's no one that's going to be pushing back against it or asking the questions, then we will continue to see the land basting of lands. So I'm definitely not in favor of what the province is proposing and support any kind of letter we can send them that discourages this bill from moving forward.
Okay, any other discussion? I would just point out, I think we've been forwarded several letters from other municipalities and regional districts throughout on this same issue that are not supporting, but Director Coyne?
Yeah, we're working on a letter ourselves right now. Our building department has some major concerns over it. Our planning department has our planning and corporate development side has concerns. The PC building inspectors, their organization has penned a letter that's pretty strong too. So anything that we have, and I think I mean, we can sign this letter, but anything that our staff have like direct concerns over, the more, I think, to the point, the better, so that they understand this is a private member's bill that has come forward and seems to have the support of the government, which is concerning. So the more support we can get to deny this, the better.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing any hands, so we'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to Community Services, item D1, renewal of a Visitor Center Information Agreement, CAO.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. This is, board's being asked to renew the Visitors Information Center Service Agreement, which is a combination payment with Oliver and the Regional District. Staff's here to answer question and the recommended motions on the screen.
Okay, I'll go to Director Chahal. Are you prepared to move this one?
Yes, through the chair, I'd like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? I think it's fairly straightforward. So we'll call the question on this. Corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to D2, Regional Trails. Catalyst funding application, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek board approval for funding application to support wayfinding, signage, accessibility, improvement, and infrastructure upgrades at the Adra Tunnel section at the Kettle Valley Railway. Staff is here to answer question and the recommended motions on the screen.
Moving it. Is there a seconder? Someone prepared to second it on the floor? Thank you for second. It's on the floor. Discussion on this one? Everybody's quiet this morning. Director Taylor, and then Coyne.
I'm just wondering, what's the cost if we don't get the grant? 220?
Thank you very much, Chair. In terms of this proposal, it is a grant application working with the Trans-Canada Trail folks. And while the grant itself is not 100% funded, the proposal is to use existing funds that the board secured through the negotiation and MOU that the board put in place with the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association. So the work will continue. If we are able and successful in stacking this funding request, we'll be able to do that much more work. So if this is not successful, the work will proceed. It just will be less.
A slower pace for sure. Director Coyne, did I see a hand from you?
Yeah, just not to sound like a broken record, but the Smoke Main would like to see some love down the road, and I'm sure so would the southern part of the Okanagan Valley. Seems to be very top heavy up here lately, so that's all.
I'm not seeing any hands for further discussion, so we'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to Protective Services. Communications Shelter Transition, CAO.
Thank you. This report's asking for the board's approval for the relocation of the RDOS emergency communications infrastructure and ask for to allow the operational reserves to fund the project. Staff's here to answer any questions and the recommended motions on the screen.
Direction on this, moving it. Seconded, thank you. Any discussion, Director Taylor? Start with you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that this is all just moving expenditures and there are no past rent expenses.
Yes, exactly. It's just a moving expenditure so that there's no rent discussion or other contract discussion in the past. This is just strictly moving the equipment from A to B.
Okay. Anything further on this? Director Monteith.
Thank you. Would there be a contract signed with the new location?
Yes, there would be.
And what is the life expectancy of that contract?
It'll be a 10-year of the contract, and then it would look over to an extension on that to contract it.
Okay. Director Taylor?
Sorry, I should have asked first time. What land ownership what's the status of land ownership for this new tower?
Yes, it'll be the Crown land.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands, we'll call a question on this. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Not seeing any hands. Motion carries. Down to finance, F1, Community Works from Area I, CAO.
Thank you. This report is to ask to authorize the transfer of $7,500 from the electoral area I Community Works Reserve to the Apex Mountain Fire Hall construction project and reallocate $7,500 of operating reserve funds from the Apex Mountain Fire Hall construction project at its operating budget to complete a fire hydrant flow testing. The staff's here to answer any questions, and the recommended motions on the screen.
Go to Director Monteith. Direction?
Yes, I'd like to make the administrative recommendation.
Moving. Is there a seconder? Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Not. Oh, Director Monteith, go ahead.
I just want to say that I also did the same thing for the Cleveland Fire Department as well. So there'll be another one coming eventually.
Okay. Any other discussions? Seeing no hands, call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. F2, more community works funds for Olala Reservoir relining, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this is to authorize the transfer of $76,150 from the Olala Water System Critical Update Projects for the reservoir repairs and equipment projects and allocate an additional $50,000 from the electoral area G Community Works /gas tax to complete the reservoir repair and equipment projects. Staff's here to answer questions, and the recommended motions on the screen.
Go to Director Roberts. Direction on this one?
I'd like to make the motion to have that done. Boy, I sure hope this solves our everything. We're certainly thinking that this is the underlining issue. So let's throw the water. Let's get this done and get it over with. Thanks.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. It's on the floor. Any further discussion? Again, not seeing any hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. F3, 5-year financial plan amendment for the Smilkameen Recreation Center repairs.
Thank you. The purpose of this is to allow for necessary repairs of the refrigeration plant at the Smilkameen Recreation Center at a cost of $5,000 and to allow for the purchase of the smart board for electoral area I rural projects at a cost of $11,000. Again, staff's here to answer questions, and the motions on the screen.
Okay, so this one's kind of 2 in 1. Someone prepared to move it? Moved, second, and thank you. Any discussion on this? Director Taylor.
We've got 2 smart boards. They're great when we can access them. So you might want to think about whether you really need a smart board. There might be less expensive options. We're challenged with every time there's a security change, which is necessary for IT, but are the instructions on the smart board updated so that Joe Blogs from the community can come in and use it?
Okay, Director Monteith.
I don't know where to start. This is a historical issue. So you'll remember many moons ago when Area D ordered smart boards, might have been before you. Area I did as well, ordered 2, only got 1 installed, looking for the other one, never actually got billed for them. So trying to play catch up and order the one that's missing to replace the one that should be installed at Apex. So I ordered 2 because I had 2 different fire departments and they both used theirs for training. I hear you. Eric Kaleden Fire Department had theirs for 2 years before it was properly installed for them. They didn't know what to do with it. So the instructions do have to be clear for the users. And they're not all staff that are using them. So your point is very valid. But I'm hoping that that would be supported.
Okay, CAO.
So currently, the other fire departments have these smart boards, and it's the same individuals that use it, and they're not having any issues.
Okay. Director Monteith.
To support Director Taylor, many of our committee meetings happen at the fire hall. So you have community members that are using these smart boards that do need to know how to use them. So having a printout explanation that makes sense for us to be able to access them. I've had to call my fire chief in to come get the board working while I'm having a community meeting. So it needs to happen for us to be able to use them.
Okay. Not seeing any other hands. We've got the motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to F4. Community Works in Headley Improvement District, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this is to authorize $100,000 of electoral Area G Community Works Fund Reserve to assist the Headley Improvement District with the necessary well feasibility study. The purpose of the study is to ascertain whether a new production well and pump house is viable at potential sites in the nearby area to combat the rising level of arsenic in the Headley water system. Staff's here to answer questions, and the recommended motions on the screen.
Go to Director Roberts.
Thank you. And of course, I support this and move the motion to have this done. As we know that this has been an ongoing issue, but each year it's now in critical. We're at a level now that it's day in, day out. It can be where it's do not consume. And with the new regulations coming forward, it would just put everything in jeopardy. So they have to get this out as quick as possible so that we can find solutions moving forward for the people of Headley. Thank you.
Seconded. It's on the floor. Any other discussion on this? Director Monteith?
Thank you. I'm still confused about gas tax. We got an email about it, but I understood that we had to actually own the infrastructure to be able to donate to it, or that it had to be in their strategic plan. And if we are doing this, is RDOS staff involved to make sure that the plan is done, or are they converting? Like, I'm confused.
I'll go to staff, either the CAO or Wayne.
In order for gas tax to be used for third-party infrastructure, there are some eligibility requirements, and this is part of the eligibility requirements is getting board approval so that it can go to UBCM for the final funding choice. So right now, when this goes to UBCM, they have, I believe it's 30 days after they receive an application to decide whether to approve or deny. UBCM's primary focus is making sure that the regional district assets are looked at first, and then if there's the ability to fund third party. In this case, again, it's water for the residents of the region, so this may be one that they approve, but that's the way this one's going, and it's a survey that is being done by the Headley Improvement District with input from our staff. Our staff is not actually doing the work, but they are consulting to make sure that Headley is on the right track.
Okay. Anything further on this one? Director Taylor.
Yeah, and I really appreciate this. I understand you need the water and you need the well, but to date, we've had a pretty strong policy from staff that we don't invest gas tax in other people's water systems. So, and I know there will be other inquiries about this if we go down this road. So I think we need to think about this very carefully.
Yeah. My understanding is that if we prove this, UBCM could say no, and then that sets the precedent very quickly, or not. So that's an option, but I seen hands here. I'll go to Director Bush and then Roberts.
Yeah, so in the past, I've allocated money towards Fairview Heights Irrigation District. I mean, they're probably 20% of my constituents, and I don't see why they wouldn't be, not able to take advantage of the gas tax. I mean, there are constituents. Like, just because we don't own the system shouldn't make any difference.
Director Roberts.
Thank you, through the chair. And this is each time that we've done that, when we've done this before for the Carameus Irrigation District, we followed the rules to the letter. And if you look up online and you can see under Appendix A that yes, it can go to a third party. And under the third party, it does state what is considered appropriate, which the water systems, sewer systems, these are appropriate. Then going from that, again, you can't be, for instance, in Area G, I have a water system that's regional district owned. I make sure that it gets all that it needs. And then I can only, and as the third party's aware that if all of a sudden the need of the Olalla water system outstrips the gas tax, they're out of luck because the Olalla water system comes before the Carameus irrigation system and the Headley Improvement District. But at the same time, these are our constituents. We're not planning on taking over the KID or the HID any day soon. So, you know, this is a process. It's followed for this specific one. I made sure that the HID reached out to our public works people to understand how to appropriately put together an RFP, RFQ process, which they followed. Then what came out of that process was then sent to our staff to look at it and see whether or not it was appropriate and ultimately what choice was made of what company. So we've followed all the procedures. I support the fact that we have to have procedures in place for these third parties. And I've gone out of my way, and Headley Improvement District's gone out of its way to meet those needs, as I have in the past with Carameus Irrigation District. Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any other hands. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to Legislative Services, Okanagan Regional Library Trustee Appointment, CAO.
Thank you. Today you're being asked to appoint the Okanagan Regional Library representatives. Staff's here to answer any questions, and the recommended motion's on the screen.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Not seeing any hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Blank page on my next sheet here. G2, RDOS Committee Structure Pilot for 2026, CAO.
So thank you. So this was on the 2025 strategic priority request by the board, and it's looking at having a trial run for the electoral area committee. Staff's here to answer questions. The recommended motion's on the screen. All I have to say.
Okay. Direction on this, Director Taylor?
I'd like to move the staff recommendation with one amendment such that the Electoral Area Services Committee meets bi-monthly unless not required.
So it's worded in there right now, it would meet monthly, and you're saying proposing twice a month as needed versus, okay. Seconded? Discussion on that? Or discussion on any of these committee structures that we're changing to? Looking like it's quiet on it. We'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. No, it's moved as an amended slightly, just a different motion to start with. CAO report. Over to the CAO.
So thank you. This is regarding the term of reference for the senior leadership team. This was a recommendation made from the efficiency audit. We have been unofficially doing a lot of this, but I decided let's make it official right now. There's the term of references essentially give us the ability to be more structured. Specific governance or issues are clarified, roles are clarified, operational efficiencies, risk management and compliance. So I've asked the board to take a look at it and endorse it for me.
Okay, Someone prepared to move this one? Moved, seconder, thank you. Discussion, I'll go to Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. So reading through who would be at the senior leadership table, is there benefit to have the senior managers even just there as listening so that they can hear what's going on within the other departments and how it impacts them? Like, I guess I'm concerned that we're removing the managers, having the general manager there, great, but having that, I guess I'm looking for there was a big change. So I'm looking to see that flow is still there.
Okay, CAO.
So what's happening right now is 1 week we have the leadership team. The following week we have a senior management team with the leadership team. And every quarter we have an all staff meeting. So I'm big into communication and transparency, and what you were just stating happens at that second meeting with the managers. All managers are in that second meeting.
Okay. Director Coyne.
Yeah, I'm just curious, protective services, what department is that falling under?
Go ahead.
Protective services falls under me. So there's 4 departments and specific divisions, but protective services, communications, and HR report directly to me, so I represent them in the meeting.
Okay. Any other follow-up? Go ahead, Director Coyne.
Yes, so okay, that's good, but at the same time, just a suggestion, I guess, down the road, every department, like, I think when we were originally talking about this, it was off over here on its own, right? And I'd like to see a way that protective services was integrated into every department was integrated into protective services, so there's none of that siloing, and them having some sort of feedback into this group down the road.
CAO.
Okay. So the reason I had the report to me is exactly for that, because I'm involved in all aspects of it. And I have, one of the things I didn't mention is I also have meetings with the 3 HR, protective services and communications once every 2 weeks. And I have a meeting with the leadership team also once every 2 weeks. So they're up to speed at any given time. And also for the leadership team, there are times when the senior managers are also invited if there's something important that they need to be addressed, that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Director Taylor?
At the end of the day, I think how our employee structures things to a large extent is up to him, and that's how he'll get judged. But I think it's helpful if you could there have been a number of changes over the last year or 2 for the better. Maybe you could just come back to us with a brief report that has a bit of an org chart on what the current org chart is, both for staff and committees. And that, I think, would just repeat a lot of what's come out today, but give you an opportunity to speak to it.
Okay. CAO.
I'd be glad to show that off.
Follow-up, Director Coyne?
Yeah, I understand that it's the CAO's job. I just came back from the emergency management conference. This came up that the way we're looking at kind of operating needs to be also looked at in a lens of emergency management. And when you're in the EOC, every department has a role in that EOC. So having the emergency manager as part of that, overall view, it helps in the long run. So if Jim's doing that, that's great. Down the road, Jim might not be the guy, so we might want to consider that, when he decides to retire and move on, that the next guy might not be as into it as Jim is.
Okay. We do have a motion on the floor. I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. CAO.
So in continuing my efforts to recognize staff achievements, I want to recognize Joanne. Joanne, if you stand up, please. She just received this week, obtained a certificate for efficiency and negotiating with Indigenous First Nations. And I just want to recognize her work in this, and thank you, Joanne.
Congrats.
And I'm going to go a little bit out of order. We only got 2 items, so I won't take too long. Something new. You just recently, at the beginning of the meeting, you passed the consent agenda. A lot of items in that consent agenda have items that need to be followed up. And they just sort of disappear and I don't see them happening. And what's going to be happening is anything that has to have a follow-up, you're now going to have a report at this level. Matt's created a great software that you will be able to access your questions. And one of the things that will happen at every meeting is once the items have been identified and completed, we'll briefly give you a heads up of where it's at. And most importantly, one of the things that I think we can really improve is on those recreation commissions. There's a lot of items in there. And in some cases, that may be, this is what the Recreation Commission has recommended, and you've approved it in your consent agenda, but it may not be practical. So we're going to, you as a board will be able to see this on every 2 weeks. And if there's something that is ongoing and you don't see, maybe sometimes maybe a week, a month before it reaches you because there's some work, but you will get it. So that, Matt, if you want to just quickly discuss that, and then I've got one more item.
Certainly. We'll go to Director Monteith had a question or something first. So before I go to Matt, go ahead.
Thank you. So I love this. This is so needed. Muchly appreciated. It's been a source of frustration in my communities for a long time. So yes, I am going to ask that I guess the follow-up also goes back to the commission as a final step, because otherwise it falls on me to report back to them. And if there's a vote or anything, they need to see that directly from the regional district, not me as a director saying, you know, it got voted down or yes, it's supported. Like it should be operational, not a political.
See you.
So on those consent agendas, that's how I see it going back up, but you need to see it first. But there's items that come out of this meeting that you will have an update at those ones there.
Okay, Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Quick question that ties to what we just passed. With the electoral area committee, would this not be going to it, like let's say biweekly rather than to the general?
See you.
So it will go at whatever level we received the information. So if it came from the board would get it. If it comes from the committee would get it.
Okay. All right, back to Matt.
Thank you. So a couple updates. We can start with the action items updates. That's what Jim was speaking about. So the new verbal updates will be provided to address concerns and questions that come up. Often staff respond with, we'll get back to you, or we'll provide further information. So we're going to be closing the loop on those inquiries. The software is tagging the staff that are involved. Will be doing those follow-ups and bringing those updates back. As far as Parks and Rec commissions go, we'll be starting to document and summarize that as well, reporting back to the board and providing updates to those commissions. So I'll be meeting with staff to develop that tracker and the processes for that. So that'll be coming. There are a few inquiries that we can address. Currently, there are 5 that have come up over the last couple weeks. So in the board budget workshop that was held on the 27th of November, there were a request for victim services to be broken down by area. This was escalated, and the superintendent Beth McAndy was involved. Her response back was that this is a labor-intensive process. And it's not currently something that the RCMP have the ability to track, but further updates will be provided. But that's sort of an unresolved update that comes out of that. There was another request that came out of the board budget workshop involving an inquiry for the Seacrest campsite funding. So staff responded here that the inquiry was to find out what is needed to be done for all participants to fund the service. And the response back from staff includes that the participant is electoral area C only. The max requisition is $20,000. Electoral assent is attained by AAP. And for the entire regional district to participate, bylaw amendment and electoral assent is required. So that will close the loop on that one. Question?
Director Taylor?
Refresh my memory, but wasn't part of the ask on that whether the facility could be used for other than agricultural workers?
Yes. I don't have an update on that.
Okay.
Not quite yet. Yeah.
That's the one I'm really looking forward to hearing.
Still waiting on that one. CAO?
At this level, you only get it if we have an answer.
So forthcoming in the future.
We'll
Okay.
find out. We're still looking into, again, this came out of the board budget workshop on the 27th. Can bookings of parks and fields be included in clerk duties? So we're still looking into that. Bus ridership numbers. This also came out of the workshop. Request for riders per service. So staff are looking into the data and may be able to provide an update in January. And that will conclude that. So that's an update there. Just want to highlight a few projects. So we're 92% through the year. We're closing in. We've got one more board meeting in December, and we'll provide one more verbal update at that time. Staff will be wrapping up over the break, and a final update will be provided in January. So for where we're sitting at right now, for projects ending November 30th, which is just past last week, there are 56 projects. 42 of them are marked complete. That average is 95%, which is up 1% from 2 weeks ago. For actions ending at the end of the year, there are 76 projects complete. This is now sitting at 82% overall, which is up 5% from 2 weeks ago. There were 12 completed actions over the last 2 weeks, so just want to highlight those. So a project led by the recreation team, completing guiding documents for core and basic components of the recreation volunteer program. Project led by the Parks Division, the Kenyon House condition assessment was completed. The Adra Tunnel gates have been installed. That was led by the Parks Division. Drinking fountains for Electoral Area D, led by the Parks Division. SCADA upgrades planned from a 2017 report. Those upgrades were completed by the Public Works Engineering Division. The Willowbrook Water System curb stop replacements for 2025. That was led by Public Works Utilities. Landfill agreement and credit process updates and revisions. That was led by the Public Works Solid Waste team. Addressing concerns on electrical demand for Okanagan Falls, the Avery Business Park, in collaboration with Fortis BC, led by the CAO. Save the BC Tree Fruit Heritage document. That was a project led by CAO. Olala critical upgrades, service valves. This was led by the Public Works Utilities Division. The Oliver Landfill completed a marketing study led by Solid Waste. And the fleet vehicle electric charging infrastructure was completed by Sustainability. So we will have one more update in December, and we'll have a conclusion update in January. Staff are continuing to plan for 2026. Our goal is to wrap that up by the end of the year, a draft, provide an update back in January, and have a plan that's in place by the end of January. That's the goal.
Okay, CAO?
Matt doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to be asking to have this in writing, so it'll be a report for you, so you can you see it ahead of time.
Okay. That's not seeing any hands or questions, so thank you, Matt. CAO, anything further there?
Sorry, nothing further.
Okay. I think we're on to other business. Chair's report. I think the only thing I can report is last week I did attend the collaborative leadership table meeting that was held in Coston, and thinking we need to have some kind of a report from that is going to be in writing, but there isn't a whole lot to report at this time other than we're starting a couple of committees, and I don't think there's any action out of that yet, but when and if there is, we'll probably, or I'll make sure there's something in writing that can go to the board rather than me trying to convey it verbally all the time. So. Director's motions. We do have a couple of director's motions, I believe. I'm going to start with Director Roberts.
Thank you, through the chair. And of course, mine is a notice of motion. It's been in for a bit. And again, it was a question, first of all, not wanting to sound self-serving. It did flag it to myself in regards to the percentages set up on our Route 50 that kind of caught my attention. And what it caught within the bylaw itself is that it set allotment percentages. And knowing, just even going back not too long ago when Princeton, as Princeton ran the system, there were different numbers. They're kind of up and down in different areas. And my concern is that this puts like a burden basically just on Princeton and Area G in regards to the lion's share of the service. And there's no way to adjust, like these numbers and allotments can change from time to time. And I see it, and again, I know it looks like it's self-serving, but I'm stating that I think this is something that we already know. We've gone from 3 trips now to 5 with a double return on the Friday. This is something that as a whole is a benefit to the whole side. And what I'm looking at is if we just have it in assessed value, it spreads it out. And then when we start looking at issues like the 5A connection in the future, maybe to Merit that we've talked about, the fact that we'd like to see doubling up or going more regularly to Costin, that means that everybody's paying into the system as it relates to their assessments across the board. And it will take up the ebb and flow of changes that we want to see in the service or the expansion of the service. Because right now it would be just basically Princeton and Area G. If we, let's say, doubled the trips in the Similkameen, we're paying the lion's share of it. Whether or not that actually holds true in regards to the ridership. But I think it is a benefit to the whole group. My parents lived on Otter Lake. My sister used to take the bus to Princeton and get picked up by my parents to take out to the cabin. Going way back on Greyhound, I used to drive up from the coast when I first started working up here on the bus and get picked up by my employer. We're looking at this expansion going forward, and I see the model that we've got locked into our bylaw as not really being flexible enough to move with what our needs are moving forward, and also that the numbers don't really equate. They will ebb and flow from all of our areas quite frequently. So I found that really difficult. So this is why I've brought it to the table and wanted to have some discussion on it.
Okay, so is this a notice of motion or is this the actual motion?
It's a notice of motion, but with an
explanation of what it is. Okay, so it's going to come back to us at the next board meeting then, just so everybody's aware of that. Director Bush.
Yeah, so I can't understand why Area B is so small, 3%. I mean, I do understand we're mostly agriculture and their assessments are a lot lower, but 3% seems pretty low to me, and I don't know if we could check this out or not.
But it sounds like he's almost volunteering there, but we'll get that discussion. We'll go forward at the next board meeting.
I mean, how do you ask for more trips if you're only paying 3%?
Yeah, that's a good point. I believe there was one other notice of motion. Director Coyne, I'd seen an email that went out, so
Yeah,
you want to tell us what yours is? And
I just
go
want to
from
make
there?
a notice of motion for the next meeting. I want to bring a motion forward on an MOU with the city of Penticton regarding the temporary winter shelter operations and the RDOS participation in the housing initiatives team. So, but that's for next meeting.
Okay, so those are 2 notices of motions.
Yeah, that's why it's for next meeting.
It'll come as a board report probably at the next meeting, so you'll have more information on them, on both of those. Any other notices of motion or board directors' motions? Not seeing any there. I Board members' verbal updates before we go to closed. Anything, Director Federico?
Thank you to the chair. Tomorrow night's our annual outdoor winter market down on Robinson, which is always a great time with some awesome vendors. So you can get some, I don't know, last minute or starting your Christmas shopping, but there's some options. And then registration's now open for our Naramata Fire Plunge, which is our New Year's Eve or our New Year's Day plunge into the lake. So if anyone would like to brave that this year, registration has opened for that.
Sounds interesting. I'm going to go to Director McCordoff and then Roberts.
Thank you. So tomorrow night we have Christmas light up in Asuyas with a parade and a market. Our farmers market is being held at the museum. And then there is bonfires down at Gyro Beach and fireworks. So that's a big night for Asuyas tomorrow. And on January the 1st, we have the Polar Bear Plunge. And we're happy to have anybody who wishes to come and go in the water. One year we had to actually cut a big square of ice out, was about 6 or 8 inches thick, and people actually went in. So I'm doing registration. Please come down. I'd love to see any of you.
I thought you said, when you started that with I thought you were going to be the first one in the water, but no. Director Roberts.
Thank you. Tomorrow in Karamias is our parade. And I think Soyuz is probably going to be really busy. So you might want to come out our way. Local fun, real rural roots. And the follow up to that, the next day at the rec center in Karamias, we'll have the ice rink open. We'll have a food truck and bonfire as usual and bowling and all that kind of exciting stuff. So we'd just like to invite you to the Similkameen for a fun festival.
Okay, well, lots going on in the area, all just about at the same time, unfortunately, so makes it hard. But Director Taylor.
Join the crowd here. We now have 2 licensed eating establishments in Okanagan Falls. And we're all chuckling at this, but 4 years ago, we didn't have any. So, 200% improvement. Come and join us on December 13th. We've got our Okanagan Falls RDOS sponsored Christmas event and a number of other things. 1:30 to 3:30, and then Santa Claus arrives at the mall at 3:45.
Okay, thanks for that. Director Coyne, I see a hand from you.
Yeah, this is not a happy one. I'd like to regrettably announce the passing of former director Brad Hope. He was on the board for, I believe, 6 years, and he passed away last week. And I would like to let everybody know that. So thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know. Director Coyne, the other Director Coyne.
Not that I wanted to follow. Just if you are traveling, be careful, take your time. This side of the mountain is a lot better off than our side of the mountain. And we're, I think, up to about 6 inches of snow at home, and it's been raining. So just take your time if you're going over the mountains, and get there safely, because we don't want to see you in our emergency.
Okay. All right. Words of caution well taken. Thank you for that. Any other verbal updates? Seeing none, that brings us to the closed session. And that in accordance with section 91E and M of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, and that a matter that under another enactment is such that the public may be excluded from the meeting. So looking for a motion to go in camera. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? That's great. Any opposed? That motion carries. So I'll give the CAO a moment to Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn? Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? We are adjourned. We will try to abbreviate our lunch. Instead of 30 minutes, we're gonna go 25 if we can, get it a little quicker. As we do have a presentation after that, so. You're not gonna zoom in? Thanks, Adam. I'm getting a thumbs up that we're ready to start here, so I believe we're not quite got a quorum, so we need a couple of more folks to show up and get seated. And I will turn it over to Director Taylor. Once we get the numbers, we'll start. 11, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're good to go, number wise. Over to you, Director Taylor.
Okay, folks, if we can just quietly take our seats. I'll call the meeting of the Environment and Infrastructure Committee to order at 1 o'clock. And first ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved. Second. Yeah. Any changes required? Okay, I'll call the question then on accepting the agenda. That's passed. And our first agenda item is delegation, and I'll refer that to the CAO for introductions.
Thank you, Chair. We have the staff from the Net Zero Waste Incorporation, and they're here to provide an Eastgate composting facility upgrade presentation to you as the committee, and I'll turn that over to you two.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, we've come from, we have a facility in the west side of the regional district between Princeton and Eastgate. And we've prepared a presentation for you. So thank you for taking some time to review that. So let's see. Okay. Right, so we're going to start with just a little bit of introduction. Some of you may not be aware that the regional district partnered with Net Zero Waste Eastgate on a grant in 2020. This was before COVID when we applied for it, and it actually came out, the grant was awarded during COVID, and we completed the construction of the facility a few years ago. And so, how do I move it forward here? So, yeah, that is, there was a slide before that looks like, okay, so that's kind of where the facility is in relation to Manning Park on the west side. And you can see obviously the coast and Metro Vancouver. And then you can see the Okanagan and the communities to the east of us. Next slide. And when we took over the facility, it was a mushroom composting site, and they were making mushroom substrate, and they were blending wood and calcium sulfate, like drywall, with chicken litter to make a substrate to grow mushrooms in. And what happened was they closed that business down, and that's kind of what the site looked like when we took it over. And it started off with us cleaning up all of the leftover mushroom equipment. They had different turners and graders and tanks and things. We ripped all of that out. And that was when we also applied for the organic infrastructure program with support from the regional district, the town of Princeton, and both of the lower and upper Similkameen Indian bands. And then we got a permit from the ministry to operate as a compost facility. We made improvements to the site office and cabin, so replaced all the siding and the roof and the structure. When we took the site over, it was in pretty poor state, kind of left derelict and unused, and we then rebuilt all of the cabin, and we've made a bunch of living quarters for a number of the staff to stay on site and an office. And this was all part of what was done in partnership with the regional district on the grant award. And so you can see the original shop there on the left. And what we've done now is put it all inside of cladding so that we can work inside during the inclement weather. These are just more pictures of improvements, on the site. We recycled the existing concrete pad and pond, but we added new infrastructure, which is all those concrete bunkers that you can see there where the truck is tipping in the tipping bunker. So all of that is new concrete and new infrastructure. And then what happens is as the material finishes processing, it goes onto the old infrastructure. And you can kind of see that was what the tipping bunker used to look like. And then afterwards, it was new concrete and new watertight processing bunkers. So everything's sealed, all the water gets collected in the ground and the air pushes into the material. And the entire site has this perimeter fencing with a mesh face to make sure that no either animals are coming into the processing area or plastic is blowing off of the site. And so that's kind of what it looked like in 2023 when we finished doing the construction. We continued to rip up parts of the old concrete pad where it's cracking or needs to be repaired. And this is what it looks like now in operation as we fill up these empty bunkers. And on top, you can see Gore-Tex jackets. That's why you won't smell us when you drive by on the Crow's Nest Highway. The Gore-Tex acts like any hunting jacket, or it's waterproof and breathable, and so it keeps your odor contained underneath the cover, and also keeps the moisture under the cover, which, if you're familiar with this area, we see a fraction of the rainfall that we see in Metro Vancouver. So, we see about 200 millimeters of rain in the summer and about 100 to 200 millimeters of snow in the winter, compared to 1,600 millimeters in Metro Vancouver. From an operations perspective, that's important because that means it's quite dry and we don't discharge anything. So no water leaves the site. We recycle all of the stormwater and all of the leachate, and we actually have to pump excess water from a well. And that's a lot harder to do in Metro Vancouver because with the extra rainfall, you end up having dirty rainwater leave the site. And so what we're showing here is what the material looks like at the end when it's been screened and ready to be sold or used on, it's being used on some of your vineyards. It's certified organic. So actually BC's biggest crop of certified organic production is wine, if you're interested, because most of the greenhouses in Metro Vancouver don't grow organically. But the compost has lots of great uses, and especially when vineyards have seen die off like they have in recent years, and they're doing a complete replant. This adds organic material to the soil. And this is why it's important, because if you have healthy soil, these are what some of our customers have sent us, photos of an onion the size of a basketball or a 5-pound tomato. Sometimes gets people excited about gardening. We regularly test the compost. And so Regional District has some experience with some small compost facilities that you've done in Oliver. Summerland, I think, runs their own as well. And it's expensive to run these sites because there's a lot of regulatory requirements. And so when you're running a small site, it can be quite costly to do so. I believe you run a green waste compost facility, or maybe the city runs it at the landfill, but it's difficult to do all the testing and all the sales and marketing. So what we do is we take that away from communities and do it all for them. We get this certified organic matter listing that allows us to be used for certified organic farming. And what I'm here to present on is both the completed project that's now been done since 2022, 2023, but also to provide a bit of an update on the fact that this infrastructure will age. Like anything, the covers will have a lifespan. The warranty is for 4 years, and they expect them to last between 8 and 10 years. So when we partnered with the regional district on the grant, we gave 10 years of at-cost processing. And I'm just showing some photos of the covers. They do rip over time. They snag on a piece of tree or whatever, and they need to be re-sewed, and we can do that. But over time they age, and and as a result, that 10 years of savings will decrease over time. If you wait for 10 years to call upon us for 10 years of at-cost processing, it won't be possible for us. So, we're calling to action the RDOS. You're our host regional district and community. And if you remove food waste from the landfill, it can save you money. So we offered 10 years of at-cost processing, which is $50 a ton versus, say, the $110 a ton cost at the landfill. We are a couple hours away, and I know transportation issues are an issue for some people, but usually compost facilities, you want to have them out of the community because the biggest issue, it tends to be odor, it tends to be downstream disruptions, and so you kind of want it to be in the middle of nowhere. And for lack of a better word, that's where we are. And so, we are a couple hours away, but when you move the material with a walking floor trailer, you're moving 30 tons at a time. So that's many hundreds of homes being moved with each truck. And it is within your regional district, and so it is only a couple hours away. And then on the backhaul, you can return some of these soils that many cases vineyards would like to get, but can't pay for the trucking because the soil is often a fraction of the cost of the trucking. The soil might cost $500 a truckload, but the truck to get it back here would be, 3 or 4 times that amount. And then by pulling that food waste out of your landfill, you extend the life of the landfill as well. And so, what we'd like to do is offer a spring tour of the facility. Now you can come, of course, anytime, but it started to snow and we don't know if it's going to leave. So, everything's kind of covered in a blanket of white. But the site looks fantastic. And we've been open for over 4 years. We have some of these other municipal clients now, like the city of Chilliwack and Hope and some clients from the Lower Mainland. We've had 0 odor complaints or issues or 0 shutdowns, but we would like to see, you have your green bins at the curb. People are recycling green waste. It would just be as easy as saying you can put your food waste in there now, and we'd be able to divert those banana peels. And I don't know if you've heard from your constituents, but in most of the communities where I've presented, people will support food waste diversion and even be prepared to pay for it whenever they've done their studies on outreach. But we're here to offer the service. We have the capacity held for you. And, we've been talking to staff, trying to listen to what your concerns might be. So one of them would be the cost, sure, it's going to be $50 a ton for the next 7 years. What about after that? Well, of course, you can write your RFPs however you'd like. What's happening in other communities in Coquitlam, they just wrote an RFP for 15 years. So it's a 10 plus 5. Burnaby did 10 plus 10, so 20. So there's long-term contracts that can take away that risk for you. You can also put the trucking cost in with processing so that the proponent is responsible for the trucking and the disposal. And that way, if the fuel price goes up, you're not worried about a big impact to your budget. You've already got the landfill where you're already collecting all your yard waste. And so, it'd be very easy to do a pilot project and to start doing food waste. Just letting you know that normally these things take years to set up because the facility is not built and that you require the contract to build it. But we could literally take, the city of Penticton's food waste starting tomorrow. So, way back in the beginning, somehow I missed the slide that I was, it was of the grant award. So we actually got $6 million from the province and the feds to build this facility. And that was the thing that I felt a lot of people probably in the room didn't realize. This is a big sign that's on our front gate. And that's your logo on it. And it's already built. So I know you've been working hard to try and get another site by the landfill permitted. And that's gone, for those of you that have been involved in that process, back and forth. Maybe this is just a pilot while you continue to exercise that project, but it's available to you. And we'd love to have you as a partner. So if there's any questions, I think I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osejo. Questions, Director Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. When you test the materials, do you check for PFAS?
We're not taking any biosolids or sewage material. So usually that's where you would find those PFAs, not in the food waste.
Yeah, I know it's not in the food waste, but it's in the Gore-Tex that you use for the.
The Gore-Tex is
material.
actually just a membrane. I know what you're talking about, like Teflon is also been debated as a source for these things, but the material that we use, the Gore-Tex is laminated between two canvas tarps, and it's essentially like a sieve, and it allows small molecules to pass through, but not water molecules. So the water condenses on the inside of the fabric. None of that fabric ever makes it into the material, so there wouldn't be any of it in there.
Yeah, just to follow
Follow
up.
up.
Yeah, thanks. I just kind of want to know that because I know that California and New York are going to be banning, what do you call it, Gore-Tex in clothing that probably next year coming up. So is it, and it's specifically for the fact that they have PFAs, and there's been, I think studies that even rain jackets are leaching PFAs off into the environment.
All I can tell you is there's 350 of these types of facilities around the world, and there are many of them in California that use the Gore cover system, which is manufactured by W.L. Gore and Associates, the same guys that make Gore-Tex. But yeah, we don't take any biosolids. Biosolids often have the sort of flush effect that people worry, like what's going down the toilet? Are there pharmaceuticals in there? Heavy metals can sometimes be in there. That's why we've chosen just to focus on the food waste for now. We have a bigger issue with plastics in the food waste. I'm on the Canadian Compost Council, and we just got all plastic stickers. By 2028, they'll all be made out of compostable plastic and compostable glue. So those are the little victories that we're going for, but it's always trying to get the plastic out of the compost for our customers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I saw another question over here. Director Bush.
Yeah, so are you suggesting that if you take our food waste, you'll offset the prices by bringing the material back in for the farmers or whatever?
So when we bid the contract for the grant, we needed to do it with the partnership of the regional district. And in exchange for getting that grant money, we said we would do 10 years of processing of 10,000 tons at cost, which, for a round number was $50 in 2020. So essentially the cost of that capital, the cost of that money that we would otherwise be paying the bank for the next 10 years, we've offered as savings to the regional district. And all I'm saying is that the infrastructure has a lifespan. So, the covers I have to replace every 8 years, and the concrete even will need repairs and maintenance as you would expect over time. So that has a limited time period. And I'm just letting you know that it's there and ready for your use if you wanted to start recycling the food waste.
And I think partially the point also is if the trucks are going one way, then we could get the backhaul back for some of our producers.
That's right.
Director Coyne?
Yeah, so these guys are one of two composting facilities over in the Princeton area. And the other composting facility has been extremely successful at backhauling. So those trucks that are coming in and out of town are never empty. And they've been able to undercut quite a few of the competitors because of that. So just, if you find somebody that can be running the other way, they're paying the fuel cost too.
Thank you. I have a question from Director Bloomfield.
Thank you. And yeah, you mentioned that you have contracts with Chilliwack and another municipality.
Yes. So currently, very similar to your situation, we pick up from a landfill, which is in Bailey Landfill in Chilliwack. And that landfill collects from multiple municipalities. And so it is also getting material from Hope. And all I'm saying in relation to how far material sometimes travels, biosolids, for example, travel from the central Okanagan because they're at capacity to Alberta for processing. And food waste from the island comes to the mainland because the CRD, there's no place to build a site. It's just basically people everywhere. It's a big rock. So there's these things, these materials sometimes have to travel a little distance. And so we've gotten pretty efficient at doing it. And 2 hours isn't a huge obstacle to overcome. In other words, to get it to that side of your regional district.
And
follow up?
Yeah, follow up, please. And how many tons comes from Chilliwack per year?
So we have in our permit 66,000 tons of capacity, and we do 10,000 from Chilliwack. So we have lots of capacity.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Other questions? Director Bush.
There we go. So I think I read somewhere, and I don't know if it was crazy Facebook or not, but I think the natives are opposing this.
They were opposing the biosolids.
Okay.
And I think that's, well, it is, they've stated it's because they have an exclusive agreement with Arrow, the other company who's doing that processing. So that's fine. We've shifted our focus to just be on food waste. And, you know, we've supported them in their initiatives that they were building a gathering space. We supported them in that. We've had an open and open relationship with them to come and tours, and it remains open if they've ever wanted to come back. So I think we're solid there.
Okay, have I got any other questions? Not seeing any. I'd like to thank Mr. Osejo and Mr. Jasper for your presentation. I think we're more informed than we were. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Hopefully we can work together to recycle food waste. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just wait a few moments. I think our next presentation is on disposal fees for contaminated loads, and I'll look to the CAO for introduction.
Thank you, Chair. You are correct. This is in regards to discussing standardizing tipping fees across the regional district landfills and simplifying the fee structure to reduce confusion, improve compliance, and preserve landfill lifescapes. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation, and staff will be here to answer your questions.
You got to get used to that, Mr. Gable-Howell. You're always going to be on the right.
Ron? All right, thank you, everybody. I'm excited to dive into this topic today, and I've been in this chair for a short period of time now, but I look forward to being in front of you more in 2026 as well, to keep you informed on challenges, and also there's a lot of exciting things happening in solid waste. Who knew? We control it. Okay. Okay, so the main purpose today is to really just paint a picture for you all on some of the main challenges we're having. And the main challenge is our landfills are filling up too quickly. And to get feedback from you folks. So we feel that by standardizing some of the tipping fees and working on some of the definitions for 2026, we can reduce the contaminants in our landfills and hopefully expand their lives, extend the lifespan. So before I dive into the issues we're having, I wanted to highlight one success we're having. So Okanagan Falls landfill is unique for us for two reasons. The first reason is it doesn't take any municipal solid waste, so no food waste. It's just more construction material. And because we have a sorting facility on site. So it started in 2014, I believe. And we reduced the rates a lot, so it incentivized customers to bring in contaminated loads, so recyclable materials with their construction waste. We would do the sorting for them, which would keep recyclables out of our landfills, and again, to extend the lifespan. So just a quick overview. It's a big conveyor belt. Customers can come and dump a big load there, and then our crews pick out the wood and metal and any recycles we can. And it's been very successful. We're able to, we really incentivized the whole regional district to use the facility or the service. So just a quick snapshot for you. You can see the middle column, just the rates are just so much, I guess, inexpensive. So for big contractors, this is really cost effective. So 120 versus 700, 120 versus 500, for example. And it's worked so well. In fact, this is one other thing we're going to be looking at in 2026. Again, just standardizing across the across all of our sites. So as you see, the waste disposal and tonnage, that's the amount that's being landfilled. So since 2017, we've roughly doubled every 4 years at that site. So even with the sorting facility, we do take out a lot of recyclables, but there's still a large amount of waste that does get landfilled. So just for some context, we did an analysis, and in 2021, it said that we should be expecting to see 3,800 tons of material landfilled by 2063. As you see, in 2024, we're surpassed that now. So we're 40 years ahead of schedule. And that's a common trend amongst all of our landfills. I made one point there, landfills are 2 years ahead of schedule. That was one specific cell. So we build a cell, we fill it up and move on to another cell. So the current cell there was expected to finish in 2028, but we're really looking into, it'll probably be done near 2026. So just trying to give you some context. This is a common trend amongst all of our sites. So why is it happening? Currently right now, customers can come, and if they have contaminants in their loads, we apply a triple charge. So right now the rate is $120 a ton. And if there's recyclable materials in the load, we can triple charge. So it goes to $360. So what we're hearing from customers is that they're more than willing to pay that. It's the cost of doing business. So they'd rather pay that than having to sort it, multiple bins, etc. And I'll show you, we got some pictures here just to show you the scale of it. So this is a very typical load. This is all getting buried. Yeah, oh, sorry.
Sorry, Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. Have you guys checked to see where people are coming from? Is it from out the entire region? Like, is Penticton going to OK Falls to dump? And I guess my other question is this landfill part of the Campbell Mountain service, or is it a separate service?
The Okanagan Falls is part of the Campbell Mountain service. Yeah. As far as checking to see where customers come from, we always try to do that. So for Okanagan Falls, we accept the entire regional district because we were trying to get recyclables out. But for example, this is Campbell Mountain. I'm going into the contamination, but it's challenging to find where people are coming from. We don't, check license plates or driver's license and things like that, right? Our staff is very good at they see the same customers all the time. And one thing I should have said, this is really to do with the large haulers. This isn't just the average person going up with a couple bags of garbage, throwing it in the bins. This is the big haulers, right? So we typically see the same people all the time. So typical contaminated load. So what we want, so at our landfills, we have a pile for wood, a pile for metal, a pile for concrete, asphalt, shingles. And so we want everyone to sort. So as you'll see with these loads, they're willing to pay that $360 fee rather than take 2 trips. That's an easy, one bin for garbage, one bin for wood. And so that's all being landfilled. So just another example, 99% wood, all recyclable, probably a couple pieces of garbage that, again, just gets, once it hits the ground, maybe I should say that as well, we don't touch it. We can't touch it. So we can't then go after the fact and try to dig out the recyclables. A couple more. It's quite shocking. It's pretty sad. But so someone's doing a renovation or some new construction, and again, just everything goes in one bin. So we're trying to figure out a solution. So right now we have different categories for construction waste, demolition waste, and refuse. It's challenging for staff to most people that come through this scale are just saying, I got garbage. It's tough for our staff to run up there. And even the definitions, one category is 2 or more recyclables. Another category is 1 recyclables. We're kind of proposing to keep it easy for the customer and staff. If there's contamination in your refuse load, just a straight $700 a ton would be an example. $700 is already in our bylaw, so it was a good example. So that would be more of like a 5 times charge rather than a triple charge. There's alternatives. Some regional districts ban recyclables, so they do more refined structure, but that was our proposed direction for 2026. So wanted to get ahead of it this year so we can get a jump on it in 2026. Hopefully we can, again, looking for feedback. If this is something we have an appetite for, we can come in 2026 with some proposed bylaw changes, and then it'll give us a full year to really see if it's making a difference. And if it's not, then we may need to pivot or change direction again. But again, it's back to the why. It's just we need to extend the lifespan of our landfills for as long as possible. I think that was it. Yeah, questions, feedback?
Right, thanks. That was interesting, eye-opening. Questions? Director Bloomfield.
I think your last slide actually caught it there, but I didn't hear you speak about it. But so is this just like a cash grab, or is it an educational process? And if it's an educational process, then are you just relying on the increased cost? Is there a reduction in the cost if they sort? How do you turn that education into getting the separation of the garbage, which is what you want to extend the life of the landfill?
To staff.
Thank you, Chair. One thing that has been done in the past is I've heard that solid waste departments has sat down with the contractors and the haulers and try to work together, because that's really the first step. Is what we would do is how do we make this work? Out of 10 contractors or haulers that come in, it's the same 3 people, so it can be done. So to say that it's going to affect everyone, I don't see that. It's the same couple that are willing to do that. Most are actually really good. They're able to sort. They spend the time and do that. So it's not a cash grab at all. We found that to be maybe the most effective way to, will they pass that on to the customer? Again, it would be just a couple contractors, but those are tough questions to answer. But I would say we would work with the contractors. Education would be the first piece. I had there on the last slide. We would have a long implementation period. We haven't made a plan yet, if I'm being honest. The purpose of today was just to get feedback on what are we thinking, and maybe that would be the next step.
Director McCordoff, and then I have Director Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so I'm from Masuis and we have our own landfill, but if you were to take up some wood to be recycled, but that had nails in it or some metal on it, how does that work? And I'll give you an example. I took up, for years, my husband took slides and we had them in those carousels, the boxes with the carousels in. I decided I wasn't keeping the slides. I emptied all of those out, put them in the garbage, but I took up the plastic containers to be recycled, but they couldn't do that because there was metal attached to them. And so they all ended up going into the garbage. And I'm just wondering, how do we deal with mix things like that? And can they be recycled, or what's the best way for people to take things up there to know that in fact they're recycled and they're not into the garbage because you've missed something or you've got, contaminant on one part of it?
Mr. Gable?
Yes, thanks, Chair. It's a great question. It is very challenging. There's plenty of materials that maybe they're glued to garbage material. At that stage, it does just go into the garbage, unfortunately. Most of our piles, you're never going to get a clean product. So we we have balers that do the metal pile, for example, and we rely on the 80%. If it's 80% metal, 20%, whatever, they'll take it. Wood's another good example. There's always nails. And so again, we work with contractors. The chippers have large magnets, and when it goes through, it sucks all that up. So it would be based on a volume thing. And honestly, our scale attendants, it's a judgment call from them. Yeah, there is a large amount though that you just can't do anything about. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. And I've got Director Holmes.
You. I should know this, I guess, but what does Summerland do, and or Soyuz or other landfills? How do they deal with contamination in with recyclables?
To the chair, I have that numbers. I thought somebody would ask that question. So it varies. I could have put it on a slide. It varies. Summerland does a triple charge as well. I just talked to them actually last week. Princeton, for example, it's a little bit more unique, but they do 595 contaminated. It just jumps up to 595 for contaminated. I couldn't find the definition for that, but that would be recyclables as well. So everyone has something similar, but everyone does apply a penalty. The $700 that we proposed would be the highest. And again, back to, we would work with the municipalities. We don't want landfill shopping. We want some alignment, right? So, yeah.
Other questions? Just my own thought. I read, standardizing across the district, but I guess I'm also thinking maybe you should direct people with pricing to certain places with cheaper rates. I mean, that's what effectively is happening now, and clearly it works. People are going to OK Falls, and if that's filling up faster and we need to slow that, then maybe you need to apply the same principle in reverse and have higher fees there than some of your other sites. So I'd like that given some thought when you come back to us. Any other comments or questions, or any other comments from staff? No, I thought it was a great presentation. I hope you'll come back to us with sort of some kind of a plan or proposal involving fines and rates. Okay, thank you. Now, we have another presentation. This one, Public Works Curbside Collection Bylaw Update, and I'll turn it over to the CAO for an introduction.
Thank you, Chair. To update the solid waste curbside collection and drop-off service regulations for the automated curbside collection program with new definitions, service provisions, collection procedures, and enforcement. Staff's here to look at with the recommendation that the Environment and Infrastructure Committee recommend that bylaw 3123-2025 Regional District Okanagan-Similkameen Curbside Collection Service Regulatory Bylaw proceed to the Regional Board as presented. Staff's here, and I see with the presentation and answer questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've just got a couple of slides just to highlight some of the major changes that are happening in our curbside collection bylaw. Basically, the purpose of the update is primarily to incorporate the automated collection carts, because a lot of the definitions will change, and we went to clarify a bunch of terms in it that weren't exactly clear. And one of the other things is we included the wildlife attractant management. So, did it go? There we go. All right, so some of the clarifications, some of the definitions were not quite clear, so we expanded them a bit, added a bit more detail, and went into a bit more explanation on specific exemptions that people can get for how they can opt out of getting out of the user fee. They can't opt out of the service areas, just the curbside user fees. And traditionally what they are is there usually a group of people, like a multifamily, they would have a commercial bin instead of the individual bins, like mobile home parks. Maybe they'll have some commercial bins. There's also some other things. If the waste haulers just can't service them, then that can be grounds for an exemption as well. But it is not the service area. It's just the user fees that they don't pay because they don't get the service.
I'm hearing a question. Do you want to ask it now or do you want to wait till we're done? You want to ask now?
Yes. What other sort of criteria are on options for people opting out?
To staff?
Are you going to cover that or?
No, it's detailed out in the bylaw, but I can look specifically and read it out.
Because I totally didn't pick up on that. So,
but yeah, it's essentially, a lot of it is safety. If the hauler can't get up there, the trucks can't turn around, there's no way to actually safely service them, then that can be something that we will address. And we can evaluate it. It's on a case-by-case basis that we look at it. We evaluate the circumstances. We talked with the hauler, and then we make a decision and discuss it with the people. A lot of them, like I said, are because they have commercial bins, and they just have to show us their contract with the service provider. But I can go in and I can find the exact things here. There's also the absence of a dwelling unit. That's also, of course, an exemption if there's no actual house on it. The presence of any unsafe animal, natural, or other hazards as well in the vicinity of it. Like if a road isn't, is deemed, not accessible because maybe it needs a lot of road maintenance. Yeah, there's a few things listed here: public safety, conflict with other bylaws and regulations, road configuration. It's section 2.2 in the bylaw.
Thanks very much. Why don't you continue with your presentation?
Sure. All right, next slide. So the new collection system is one of the main updates for this. The biggest difference is the RDOS now owns the carts. All of the ones that were delivered over the last 6 months, yeah, they're owned by the RDOS. Previously, they were all customer owned, or sometimes they rented them from Waste Connections, our service provider. But now they are owned by the RDOS, which means we're responsible for replacing them when they get damaged and if they're reaching the end of life. So we will be putting away reserves, slowly building that up for when we expect the life cycle to end of these carts. Customer-owned carts, a lot of people have them, of course. They can be used for unlimited yard waste. They will not be picked up by our waste hauler. There are some that have still been doing it because we've had a few issues with some deliveries of carts, but the contractor won't be picking those up anymore. And just as a quick note too, the tag-a-bag system is still the same as it's always been. If they purchase a tag, add it to there, then the Waste Connections will get out and usually empty the bin and then put it in the bin and then empty that one. So, but the tag-a-bag system is the same. So the wildlife attractant management is a good addition to this bylaw, and it's dealing with wildlife in terms of bears, cougars, coyotes, wolves, basically mammals that are going to get into the garbage. And it's under the BC Wildlife Act, has a section 33.1 about attracting dangerous wildlife and what the contraventions are. So those are what we've built into our bylaw. Basically, you're not supposed to feed or attract dangerous wildlife, specifically for if you have attractants on your property, such as fruit trees or nuts, you have to remove them and don't allow them to remain on the ground because that's an attractant. And that is through the through this bylaw. Some municipalities actually have a separate, municipalities, regional districts have a separate wildlife attractant management bylaw, but we've worked it into our curbside one at the moment. Okay, so the next steps is, well, this is for discussion. We wanted to make sure that there wasn't any other things that the board wanted us to look at, but I'm going to be chatting with bylaw enforcement and how we can implement fines, especially for the wildlife attractants. So we'll be bringing that all forward in January to make sure that we have all the bylaws updated that need to be updated to do the fines and deal with any of the contraventions. So, and that I believe is it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll take questions. Director Bush.
So, could we be set up for taking food waste now that do we have a place to put it that doesn't stink, or so that we could ship it to Princeton or whatever? Is this a possibility coming up in the future?
Staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We don't have a facility right now that we could take all of the food waste and yard waste to. We are set up to collect it because it's going to go into the yard waste bins, and people have the yard waste bins. But right now, the yard waste, like from the Campbell Mountain Service area, all just gets put at the landfill site. It's not enclosed. We don't have a facility like that. We would need to have probably an enclosed transfer facility.
So, but it's something we could be looking at, right?
It is possible.
Yeah. The other problem I have in our area, because it's a fruit area and we have, I don't know, over half a dozen packing houses and whatnot, and they all dump their fruit along the road allowance or along on different pieces of property. I mean, there's just tons of it. And the reason they do it is because there's quite a fee to take it to the landfill. And so we need to stop that somehow. Like, it has to be free. But it's just not going to happen. I mean, unless you keep finding everybody, maybe, but.
Okay, well, think about that one.
We'll think about that one, yes.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Director Roberts?
Yeah, thank you to the chair. And similar to that, being, farmland and all that. So what are we, we're going to send out bylaw officers, making sure that people have cleaned off all the apples from their trees. And this is seeming a little interesting. Like, I'm trying to figure out how would that work? Like, now I got to go, like, I clean up my orchard as much as possible, but I only have a 3-acre orchard with 600 trees. What about the big outfits? Like, and a lot of times they'll have in regards to cost prohibitives or different issues that come up and they can't get certain apples off the trees. Now we're finding farms for having farm produce on them. I'm just not sure how that's going to work. And rather than an incentive, seeing more of a stick versus a carrot seems problematic.
Okay. Do you want to take a crack at that, Steph?
Thank you, Chair. We do have some time to work out the enforcement side of this bylaw, but I believe the nature of it would be education first and also complaint-based. So I don't think bylaw officers would be going around seeking out infractions. It would be more so if bylaw is getting multiple calls from neighbors saying that there's bears in the yard or deer in the roads as a result of attractants being available to wildlife.
And I may as well speak to that one because I know in our area, we've had a number of complaints where in a built area, you've got, large residential sized properties, but not estates, not acreages. 2 or 3 fruit trees and a non-resident owner. So fruit's there. Come November, December, so are the bears. And then we wind up with bears running around in a subdivision of 250 homes. And that's been a problem. So somewhere we got to get a balance. That's complaint driven though. So I see Director Fedrigo and Director Chahal.
Thank you to the chair. Couple of questions. Number one in there, was there still the time that bins can go out? Does that fall under this bylaw? Because I know we have issues with, like, I drove home the other day and there was already bins out and I'm like, I know it's the winter time, but these shouldn't be out the night before. They still have to go out in the morning. So one, is that still in there? And then with that, is there any provisions about the lids needing to be closed? And this sounds kind of silly, but I've seen bins that are just overflowing. So is that a consideration in there? And then I have one more, but it's not related to that. So I'll ask that in a moment.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Chair. The overnight bylaw still applies, I believe, to every electoral area except for H, G, and B. So this wildlife attractant bylaw would give us a better ability to actually enforce that overnight bylaw. That's something that's been pretty difficult in the past because people usually put their carts out at 9 or 10 p.m. before they go to bed. Meanwhile, they're supposed to wait until 5 a.m. the next day. So it's often hard for, if we get a complaint called in, we usually can't get to it till the next day, or bylaws not working those hours. So that's been a bylaw that's been hard to enforce, other than sending a letter after the fact as an education piece. So that one would still apply. And then this one also kind of gives us just a little bit greater accountability. And then for the second question, I'm not sure if it specifically says in this bylaw, but that is a condition to have your waste picked up. The cart lid needs to be closed and it can't be overflowing.
One more quick question. Bear aware communities, then, is that specific needs that'll fall under here as a separate like section, or would that just fall under where you're going with the wildlife attractant section? Because I know Naramata's bear aware, so just if we have specific things in there.
To staff.
Thank you. There's no specifications for bear aware communities.
Yeah, I have Director Chahal and then Director Roberts.
Yeah, this is related to what Director Bush was saying. Until a few years ago, we were accepting, I believe, apples and cherries from packing facilities in Oliver. Were we not?
Yes, we were.
At no charge, right?
I believe so, yes.
So I had a few farmers reach out to me and they had heard about that we were going to be doing composting at the facility. So their concern was, why are we paying when you guys are going to compost and sell it back? Another part of my question, where are we with that composting?
With the
At the facility in Oliver there.
the Oliver one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fruit that the farmers have, yeah, we used to take it at Oliver, but it would, a lot of it would end up being buried. I think the plan is to actually compost it with the facility. It is up and running, the facility, and we are currently taking food waste from the town of Oliver. We haven't expanded it to the rural areas yet, because we're basically kind of doing a slow start to the compost facility, just to make sure everything was operating without overwhelming it with too much food waste. But it does take all the yard waste from the areas, as well as the food waste from the town of Oliver.
I know that there are some farmers, they've started to dig holes. They're burying it themselves. That's going to attract animals too. I think it'd be good to look at possibly incorporating that into our compost sooner than later. It'd be beneficial for the farmers, beneficial for the whole community, because animals won't be showing up. Everyone benefits, right?
Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. One of the challenges that we've found, especially with when you're talking about lids not being closed down, where we used to have 2 bags
those bags don't fit in the bins that we have, because the bins that we have were associated to us having green waste taken away. One of the things that I find as a concern is when we ask for the larger one, not only is it a one-time fee, but then all of a sudden a regular fee. Why can't we just have if people want to have a bigger bin, charge them to have the bigger bin and then leave it at that? Because we're seeing an increase in illegal dumping. I see an increase of garbage not being picked up. I see an increase of the bins not being emptied. Like I think it stated before, when it was 30 degrees, the bag stuck on the inside. They just left it and left. And then when my wife called Waste Connections, they told her to go buy some PAM. Like I'm finding we're going to increase the fines on people. We're going to have people being hunted down for having apples on their ground, and we have less space for regular garbage bags and an increase of illegal dumping. I would like to see us have the ability to, so for instance, a one-time only, get the bigger bin, but not all of a sudden putting a one-time cost plus renting it for $5 more a month. Because that's a disincentive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Director Pendergraft?
Yeah, generally speaking, I'm okay with most of the proposed changes, except for I question the small bins for recycle. I don't see them in there. Generally, I understand that the thought pattern would be less garbage, more in the recycle, but some of the homes don't need those big bins and can't transport them very easily, nor do they have the place to store them. I don't want to see that ruled out completely. I think we need to keep the small bins available in every one of those categories, including recycle.
So, to staff?
Thank you. Yeah, we have gotten a few inquiries from residents requesting a smaller recycle size. We originally chose not to offer that option. We heard from neighboring municipalities and regional districts that the small recycle size didn't work as well as people thought, and it resulted in being the carts returned. But we have analyzed our options with that. We do have an excess of the small garbage bins because a lot of people are upsizing their garbage bins. So we've come up with a solution with branding those current carts that we have as recycle carts, and then altering our internal billing system to accommodate for a smaller recycle size without additional monthly costs.
But it should probably be bylaw, not restricting the 120 size. Right now it's worded in there, there is no recycle 120. And if it's in there, it's going to eventually, when I'm not here or someone else isn't here, it's going to be caught. You can't have that size. Make sure it's in there.
Yep. And to be fair, yes, our discussion and decision to move towards allowing those has happened since the draft went in. So we will amend it before it comes back for any readings.
Do I have any other comments, questions? I know from my perspective in my area, I've had concerns expressed on the wildlife management attractant issue. And I think they would like to see, in addition to managing and storing of fruit, the harvesting of fruit. I think that's the critical word that they would like to see referenced in the bylaw. And again, it's complaint driven. And personally, I don't see this being triggered in orchard land. I see this being triggered in residential properties myself. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Yeah, Director Roberts and then Director Pendergraft.
Thank you through the chair. Just a question that's separate from these. coming up with the snow, again, I've been reached out by the foreman for AIM in our area a few times about trying to get together. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to tackle Headley, because again, people can't park on their properties. They park on the roads, and then of course you can't put your bins on a snowbank, and AIM tends to do one pass on those little roads. So it's all snowbank and cars, and if you're going to have a bin on the roadway, it'll be in the middle of the road. So I'm wondering if there's been any discussions with solid waste and curbside with AIM. Thank you.
To staff?
Thank you, Chair. No, there haven't been any specific communications with AIMS regarding layout of carts, but that's something that we can do.
Director Pendercraft?
I was just going to say in regards to the fruit, it wouldn't probably apply to the orchardists, so to speak, just because of the Right to Farm Act. It's a normal practice to compost those apples or whatever it may be on the land. So it should probably be targeted somehow so that you aren't getting a bunch of people saying, oh, that orchard's got apples in there, they're attracting bears. It should be targeted to residential fruit trees rather than farms.
That would certainly be ideal. That's where the issue is, from my perspective.
Well, it will save a whole lot of hassles to staff.
Yeah. Okay, Director Fedrigo, then Director Bush. Geez, I thought we were almost done here. I really
Yes.
ranked you all up.
Well, in that though, we have to define residential. So like my parents' property, we're a half acre, and on one side is residential, and then beside us is agricultural and the ALR, and then down below us is the ALR. And my parents have about 10 fruit trees in their garden. So, and we're half acre. So it's like we'd have to define kind of what this residential kind of piece is to make that clear for some of those, I don't say anomalies, but those kind of where you're kind of residential, but kind of rural, like not residential. So I think some clarity in there might be needed as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be a challenge. I mean, wherever you draw the line, there's going to be someone on one side of the line and someone on the other. But our CAO has a comment.
Just to say, BC assessment classifies residential. So actually, it's quite easy. If BC assessment classifies it, then we would follow that.
Okay, there we are. Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, you want to always throwing a fly in the ointment. I just purchased a property, 2 acres, and the BC assessment, for some reason, the property has the house on one side, and then they leased out and had farming, and it's all ground crops here, and they assessed it as 1 acre farm, and then they assessed the other half at $168,000 for the 1 acre, the other acre. So they actually split, and the land itself is ALR. So like the BC assessment's kind of weird because I have all these 1 hectare properties on my subdivision, and every single property is assessed differently, and we're all small farms.
Okay, good. I think there's going to be challenges in everything we identify. We're identifying things for staff to consider, and yeah, we don't have to come up with the answers. That's their job. So, did I see another hand up over there? No. Okay. All right. Any further comments from staff? I think we're expecting you're going to come back with reworked bylaw, capturing every word that we've said.
Exactly. We will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll bring
Okay.
back an edited.
Thank you. My thanks to staff for all 3 of the presentations. If there's no further business, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Made, seconded. Anyone object? No, I'll take that as consensus to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Director Taylor, and everybody for your patience today. I believe that does it. So safe travels going home. I was actually going to inquire offline about that myself, so we will get a note out if there's something happening.